Hello and welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show podcast, place about games, friends, getting better. Thank you all for being here, each and every one of you. My name is Ben Hansen, joined by Mr. Cohort Kyle Hilliard.
Hey, how's it going?
Really well. Miss Cohort Janet Garcia.
Yo, what's up? And
an official MinnMax contributor, Jacob Geller.
I have a title now.
Welcome. Nice. Welcome to the show. You know Jacob Geller, everybody listening and watching. You've probably heard him on this show a bunch of times. But in case you missed this announcement, on Monday of this week, we announced there's a new role with the outlet of Patreon and MinnMax here, which is the contributor role. So coming back into the fray, first, but not foremost, but probably foremost to people listening and watching, Ana Diaz is returning as a contributor. We'll get into what that means in a bit, but she is back, everybody. Kelsey Lewin from the Video Game History Foundation is also a contributor. She'll be on this podcast a little bit later. Joe Juba, formerly of Game Informer, and then Jacob Geller, YouTube essayist extraordinaire. Welcome aboard, sir.
Hello, I'm so glad to be here in an official capacity. I feel much more confident now.
Yeah, and you might
I like that you're working really hard to get a new GIF. Like you're trying all kinds of little quick 2-second.
Look, I just want to count the people, but yeah, if you want to put a welcome to MinnMax below my picture, I won't say no.
Look, we all hate to admit it, but that's really the key to making content on the internet is you go from GIF out. Everything you say, every action you do, every hand movement, GIF out, everybody. But hey, the contributor role, we made a whole video about what it is, who's joining, why they're joining, what it means, and that is in the description of this podcast and in this YouTube video if you want to click on that to get a full breakdown. But the basic idea is hey, we're growing thanks to everybody supporting us on Patreon, subscribing to our YouTube channel, spreading the word about the podcast. Because of that growth, we're able to help support these people directly. So instead of just being like, Jacob, please, will you come on our shows? Now it's like, hey, how about you come on the show and make some hot Patreon cash, which I know you're all about, Jacob Geller.
Yeah, I'm making fat stacks. The only reason that I came on MinnMax before was that one day I knew that you would pay me.
That's right. Eventually it would come through. But yes, so what that means is the contributors will be coming on, not to the extent that Cohort's on, but if we have a gap, if they have an expertise, we'll throw them on content across everything under the sun. Somebody on Patreon sent me a message with the perfect way to describe it, and I wish I was this smart, where they said, the contributors are kind of like Final Fantasy summons. Not there all the time, but when you need them, you summon them, bop, they amaze, they do 9,999 damage, so the pressure's on Jacob Geller, and then they go away. So that's a great way of looking at contributors. And again, thank you to everybody for supporting MinnMax, however you do it, and letting us grow to this point. And the more we keep growing, the more we can bring these folks on. And if you miss Ana, we miss her too. She was actually already on content. She was on Steam's Secret Stash, which is our show every single month where Sarah Podzorski jumps through the weirdest, most obscure, strangest games that released on Steam within the last month. And last night, Sarah and Ana streamed a bunch of bizarre games. And it was a little bit unhinged and feral, as Ana likes to say. So you can check out that archive on YouTube, or if you can give us a follow on Twitch, we'd appreciate that. All right, we have so much show to get to. Can we get to the show, Janet Garcia?
Sure.
Okay, great. Well, hey, Benjamin Jennings wrote in, and I figured this is a good way to kick things off. Let's jump right into a big game here, because Benjamin Jennings writes in and says, hey, for the Returnal conversation, I'm curious if Kyle or Jacob felt the narrative sequences made the game's story more compelling / confusing. Does it make you more excited for more story content from Returnal in the future? So, table setting, Returnal Ascension released, which is the new DLC, which is co-op. What's the big headline here for what Returnal Ascension is all about?
Well, so there are kind of two different parts. There's co-op for the main campaign, the part that already existed.
Okay.
And then separately there is an infinite tower, almost. I mean, I guess Returnal already is a roguelike, but it's truly just like you are just going up floors and it keeps getting harder. Yeah. And that's the better new part. I mean, I'm sure co-op is cool, but like I haven't done any co-op. I've been running that tower like it's my job.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the cool thing about it is it has a bunch of story content, and you can beat it. Like, you can hit at least I hit a point where I was like,
you can kind of roll credits. Like the tower never ends, well, twice, but actually, you can see all the story stuff. Yeah.
So I mean, I know you guys recorded the max spoilers on Returnal, so you can check that on our YouTube channel or on the Patreon exclusive podcast feed, all that fun stuff. But it was interesting talking, or at GDC, the director of Returnal gave a talk where he explained that, like, there is not a canonical ending to this game. Even the game's developers do not know ultimately what's happening in this mysterious world, which is a cool idea. But so getting back to Benjamin's question then, like, how much does this add to the story of Returnal?
It is not really an addition to the main story of the game. It is just a kind of different part of Celine's history or whatever. So it's like, It's not like the ending is any more clear, but you know more about her relationship with her mom is basically
it's all about her
what
and
it
her
is.
Okay, so
which was a hanging thread from the main game, because they kind of like, I think it was, Jacob, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but if you got like the ultimate ending, that's where there was like a tease for. So, and it's funny to say tease because it's like, it's really these like metaphors about Celine's relationships with these people. It's not like
it was a cliffhanger.
It's nothing is like really. Nothing is like a guaranteed, like, oh, this is exactly what happened, and I understand everything now. Like everything in the Ascension DLC, which, by the way, I love.
Okay.
I really thought it was great. I really thought it added a lot. It really kind of condenses the main sort of Returnal experience down to something a little bit shorter, while adding all kinds of new stuff. Like you get these really ultra powerful weapons that are really fun to use, and it's a fantastic extension of the game. It was one of those DLCs where I'm like, I can't believe this was free. I would have happily paid for this.
Yeah, I would have paid, I don't know, $15 for it and felt like totally satisfied.
That's awesome.
So the story part, in kind of literal terms, it's like in the main game in Returnal, there's like that house that you keep going through and it changes.
Right.
A good way to think about it is like, in this, the house is like a hotel hallway, or no, not a hotel, a hospital hallway, excuse me. And so it's like, it's smaller. It's, kind of just one hallway with stuff, but you do have the same thing of like, you walk down it repeatedly and there's different stuff that happens. And eventually when you've kind of done enough stuff in the tower, you get like a kind of conclusion to that hallway.
Okay, gotcha.
Just if you liked Returnal, like apps, and you want to play more, like it's totally worth playing. Like,
yeah,
I mean, this is like when I want to play Returnal, which I do all the time. This is like what I'm doing now. Like I almost don't even think I'm going to kind of go back to the like normal roguelike part of the game, because this is just like such a tight loop of like gets me doing exactly what I want to be doing almost instantly.
Can I jump right to that? Like, I liked what I played of Returnal, but I did not beat it. And if I was having a tough time with some bosses, I mean, could I just jump right to this and just treat it like a little more compact roguelike thing?
Yeah.
That seems cool.
I mean, there's some stuff that like you unlock some abilities within the game that would definitely make the tower easier. Like there's that grappling hook, but there's also like stuff that makes you immune to lava, and like there is lava in the tower, and so whatever. But like you could just, if you just wanted to play some, you could hop in right now.
Yeah, that's cool. Hey, did either of you guys play Nex Machina, their last game, Housemarque's last game?
I don't think I did. No. I'm
curious if you ever went back to it, Kyle, what'd you think? But apparently in that GDC panel, which we talked about in the GDC podcast with Leo, which was a Patreon exclusive, but they talked about how they cut a boss from Returnal that was like a giant homage to Nex Machina. It was like the giant like machine head thing from Nex Machina. I was like, I almost wish it was in there just so more people would have maybe asked questions and gone back to play Nex Machina, because it's such a cool throwback Robotron like experience.
Visually, one of like the coolest indie games I've ever played. Like just that everything is voxels, and so it's just like everything on the screen is exploding all the time.
Yeah, totally. Here's a thinker, again pulling from that GDC panel, but the director, and Janet, help me out here. You got an encyclopedic brain. The director was saying that like, yeah, it doesn't seem that revolutionary of a game, but 3D third-person bullet hell games, we didn't really have a model to go off of. And it was one of those things of like, well, surely third-person bullet hell must exist, but like, I guess kind of that slow neon take, there's not that many. Like,
I mean, it's near
Gemini.
Yes,
it's near Automata.
It's the only example really that's like on the tip of my tongue. I think you're totally right. Is there something that we're missing? People in the chat, people in the comments, Backstage Pass, help us out, because it is a weird thinker of like, it must be a tougher formula to pull off than you'd think. I don't know. Anyways, that's it. But Returnal, Ascension, everybody. You know their final words there, Kyle? You're going to keep playing this thing, or is it just kind of a fun, nice detour, and then you'll get back to 2022 games?
No, I think I'm done. Like, I got all the story stuff, which is what I wanted. And it's really satisfying in that regard. At least I found it satisfying.
Yeah.
But I don't think, it is like what Jacob's saying, like it is this sort of, if you're like, man, I really want to play Returnal, this is the thing to go to because you level up faster and it's like more condensed and it's like he said, like, to repeat Jacob again, he just said this, but it's like it gets you to the fun stuff faster.
Yeah.
You know. So, but like, yeah, I don't know. I probably won't play it again unless there's like new stuff to be added.
Gotcha.
I'm climbing the leaderboard. I almost cracked the top 1,000 last night, and it took a long time, but it's like, that's my new goal.
That sounds like a hell of a goal. Hey, Janet?
Yes.
Have you been playing Lego Star Wars?
No, I haven't actually. I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Okay, so this is Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga, the game that has been in development for a very, very long time. A lot of development issues with this thing. Kyle, did you get a chance to check it out yet?
I did, yeah.
Oh, awesome.
So you played episode 1, right?
Yeah, jumped into episode 1 because you can choose at the beginning like which trilogy you want to start with. But the whole idea, obviously, is all 9 films have been recreated here.
Yeah, so I went 4. So I played the first couple episodes of the original, A New Hope. So
yeah, awesome. Okay, so yeah, table setting for Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga. We talked about it, years ago. They showed it in a big way at E3 2019. They had a gameplay demo, and then it's just been in development hell. Stories have come out that it's because they were trying to push for a new internal engine. So it's that classic game development woe saga of like, oh, we have a new game coming, and we're also building the tools at the same time. And it's kind of a cyberpunk situation where that rarely goes well to try and develop those hand in hand. And so it's all fallen apart and then came back together. They managed to get this thing out the door, and now it's just this gigantic Lego game. Kyle, I take it you'd played some of the Lego Star Wars games in the past, right?
Very little. Like, Lego is like a weird, I don't really like the series that much. Like, I just don't find them that, it's this weird thing. I was thinking about it. I was like, why have the Lego games never really appealed to me? And it's like, there's a handful of games where I just kind of can like see the Matrix and they just feel too gamey to me. Like I don't lose myself in the fiction, right? I don't like
what?
Right, I know it's a weird thing to say, but like Animal Crossing is one where it's like I just see it's like this is just random tasks that go forever. And Lego, I kind of like weirdly have this. I have like the weird thing where it's like it's so apparent like how it works, and it's like, and I don't mean like that it's like a simple game or anything like that. Like there's a lot of complicated things going on here, but it's like it's very Lego. Much like, okay, well I got to go here and build this. Okay, now I got to kill these 3 guys. Okay, now I got to go over here. It feels like a series of like repetitive tasks, which is like how you can define a lot of games, but for some reason I can see it with Lego where I can lose myself in other games, and I don't know why that is. Yeah,
what was your hot take jumping into this game? Do you have any big first impressions?
The thing that the couple big positive things about it was like, oh, this kind of feels like a third-person shooter. Like it leans into that more than I thought it would, which is cool. Yeah. I like that. And then the other thing that I was like weirdly like, I was like, oh, this is kind of like this. It's like there's those moments I love from those original films that like, it's like, for example, like you meet Obi-Wan and then you walk to his house.
Oh, that's good.
And I was like, ooh, this is cool. Like I'm walking to Obi-Wan's house. Like this in the movie is just like a cut, they're in the house. Right. And so that kind of stuff was weirdly fun. And it was like, oh, I'm in Mos Eisley and like walking around and there's all these characters like, and these levels are huge. Like they feel like legitimate like recreations of these like, places from the movies, but obviously they're made of Lego. Like it's all kind of this weird parody. So like that part I enjoyed of just like being in a version of the Star Wars universe. And it looks good too. It's a good looking game.
It is a good looking game. Yeah, it's available on everything. I'm curious to see what it runs like on last gen or Switch. But yeah, that is the thing, is this time they're trying to embrace more of like the sandbox appeal of less just doing the kind of overhead camera, this area, then this area, then this area. Now it's more, hey, there's a bunch of weird toys and, vehicles to drive around in this area. Like even being on Tatooine in episode 1, there's just silly stuff. Like you can go up to a bantha and you can like force control its brain. And then it's like Abe's Odyssey, and you can like control this panther and run around the streets on Tatooine. And then like it has like this funny picture-in-picture thing where it shows like Qui-Gon like, oh, and his face is taking up like half the screen as you're controlling this bantha. It's just a lot of good, silly stuff like that. And even like, you know, getting to the pod racing sequence, like, oh, this looks way better than I thought it would, I think is kind of an overwhelming thing. And I was streaming it, and I think at this point, just about everybody has played the original Lego Star Wars, even that, or, you know, the original trilogy and all that stuff for all the different versions of old Lego Star Wars. And so it's funny just seeing everybody come into the Twitch chat and be like, oh, how is this game? And then after a minute, they're like, yeah, I'm gonna have to buy this. Like, there's no way around it. It's just like, you see like a really good looking version of Lego Star Wars. There's just something immediately appealing. And it's like, okay, they're shaking it up enough where I am on board again.
Well, let me ask you, like,
yeah,
as someone who didn't really play the original like Lego Star Wars, I remember them coming out. They were huge. Is this like a remake? Like, are the same gags there and stuff like that? Like, do C-3PO and R2 like enter an escape pod in like a washing machine? Was that all in the original game and stuff like that?
New gags, baby. And speaking of gags,
okay,
I love that.
Isn't this
it
also,
really is
isn't
a
it
new
like
game.
the third remake? Like, how many
Yes.
times have they made the original trilogy?
It's a great question. So it gets complicated. So they made Lego Star Wars 1, which was the prequel trilogy. Lego Star Wars 2, which I think was Lego Star Wars 2, or Lego Star Wars, the original trilogy. That was that. And then they made Lego Star Wars, the complete saga, where they effectively just combined those games. I don't know how much they're really remaking. I think it was just kind of a weird combination. Lego Star Wars 3 was Clone Wars. But where this gets really messy is they released Lego Star Wars Force Awakens right after that movie came out. And then in that, they also remade part of Return of the Jedi in that bundle. And so now this is just like this confusing thing where they're redoing these over and over and over again. It reminds me of like, they released Lego Indiana Jones, and then Crystal Skull came out. So they made Lego Indiana Jones 2 just like a couple years later and redid all of the original Indiana Jones trilogy. And they're just masters of like, all right, what new joke can we tell about this scene over and over again? But no, the new gags are good. Like, it's so stupid, but this kind of stuff makes me laugh where like the first cutscene basically in Phantom Menace, when they call up the, you know, Newt Gunray and all those classic characters when they're on board and talking about the Trade Federation, all that stuff. Like the first time they call him up and they see him, like Palpatine is standing right there. He's like, oh, and he like hides off camera. But I love just like opening Phantom Menace with just like clearly showing, yeah, it's Palpatine, everybody. So,
well,
you know,
there was one gag that made me laugh where it was Luke was asking Obi-Wan, so what happened to my father? And it cuts to Obi-Wan and he just does that like he just like grimaces like, oh, I can't tell you, you know, that made me laugh.
Yeah, it's confusing with this one. They got Anthony Daniels, believe it or not. C-3PO came out of retirement.
He was available to play C-3PO?
They actually got that dude.
Clear my calendar.
And then Billy D. Williams is back, and then the rest are sound-alikes, which is really wild. And like, especially compared to for Lego Force Awakens, because they got Harrison Ford, they got Carrie Fisher, like everybody was in Lego Force Awakens, but that was more of like using lines from the movie mixed with some new stuff, whereas this seems like it's pretty reworked from the ground up, but it works well.
You know, I was thinking while I was playing, Mark Hamill, he never voices Luke in like video games for some reason. Never has, I don't think,
Really?
even though he's like I could be wrong about that, but I don't like, even like Rogue Squadron, I don't think he voiced Luke Skywalker in that game on N64 and stuff.
Huh.
But he does like a killer Harrison Ford impression.
Yeah.
I was like, man, that would be really funny if they hired Mark Hamill to play Han Solo in these games.
I feel like he would do it. He has enough of a ham where I feel like he would take that bait.
I would love that. That would just be so weird, just for the headline of like, that would just be so strange.
Totally.
You could tweet about that. That'd be great.
Oh, yeah. I just saw, I forget which, I think it was Fanbyte that wrote it up, but apparently there's a glitch in this game where you can, use your lightsaber on anything and hack anybody apart, and they just pop apart as Lego people. Except you can't kill children. Obviously, you can't kill the younglings. So there's a weird glitch where if you get like a youngling into like an aerial combo and then just keep attacking it with your lightsaber, you can like just keep flying across the map. So if you're I'm looking forward to the speedrun for this thing because it's going to probably involve.
Anakin canonically did that in Star Wars Episode 3. Actually,
yeah,
so that's part of the plot.
That's right. That's why they had to cut away because it was just too expensive to shoot. But in the novelization, it's very clear that there was a flight glitch. Hey,
one last thing, I did hit some bugs. I don't know about you, but
No.
on Geonosis.
Oh, these jokes.
you got to leave now. You're not a contributor anymore. I'm sorry. But weird things like the camera will just linger way too long after like a cutscene ends.
Oh, really?
And stuff, even though gameplay is still occurring. Like nothing I had to reset the game for, but enough times where I was almost like I might have to reset the game to get back into this thing.
Oh, yuck. Yeah, I guess it crashed on PC once for me.
Okay, so not too bad for you.
Well, I guess that's pretty bad. But I was like tabbing around and running the Twitch stream, so I didn't know how much of it I was responsible for. But no online co-op, just so you know. But there is local co-op. So I know Leo just played through Lego Star Wars the original with his girlfriend in co-op. So I'm curious to see if he gets around to this, what he thinks about that, having like the true co-op full Lego comparison back to back. Hey, Jordan Blaney wrote in here, and I know this is something that I've talked about a lot, but I can't get enough of it. Jordan writes in and says, now that Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga is out, what series would you like to see Lego tackle next? I would love a Lego Power Rangers or Lego Into the Spider-Verse. Very fun idea. Yeah.
Lego Glengarry Glen Ross.
Yep.
Lego A Few Good Men.
Lego A Few Good Men, that's right.
Lego the Nolan collection minus Batman. So just like the Prestige,
yes.
Memento, yeah.
Tarantino Lego.
There you go.
I feel like
honestly,
we're not too
a
far
Kill
away.
Bill Lego, like the fight against the crazy 88s or whatever, would be incredible.
Lego Kill Bill. How
That's
would
the black and white, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Would Lego Kill Bill sell better than Lego The Hobbit? Is there a chance?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Would it sell better than Lego Rock
why
Band?
not?
I feel like I've been screaming about this for too long, and I even was begging the creative director for Lego that there's so much money right there on the table, and they're not doing it. I want Lego Old Testament. Make a Lego Old Testament game. You tell me every family in America would not buy that, just like VeggieTales style comedy. And I feel like they're British. Maybe they aren't as tapped into like how big that Christian market is. I really think Lego Old Testament would
That untapped
annihilate.
Christian market.
Yes, we tapped into it for New Show Plus this week, Janet. You know how it works.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of money to be made.
That's right.
I mean, I have been to I don't know where I saw this, but it's like I think I once babysat a kid who like had a Lego, maybe it was the New Testament.
Ooh.
But it was like a full illustrations, like not sanctioned by Lego, but it was like a Lego Bible.
What? Wait, hang
The
on.
Bible itself made of Lego.
No, it was showing, it was like, here's like Moses
Bible
or
stories.
Jesus, depending on the
Lego
Testament.
Moses.
But it was like minifigures doing stuff.
Wait, so it's
For
like,
God loved the earth, he gave us his Lego son. Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
It was like Mega Bloks Jesus? And this was just on a table?
No, it was pictures. It was like you set up a diorama of like a New Testament scene and then took a picture of it and then did that for the whole New Testament and made a book out of it.
Huh.
So,
All right.
Starkiller on the Backstage Pass is saying that there's a legit Lego Old Testament book.
Really? Okay, well,
There you go.
they're
That's
hip.
the one I saw.
That should be what they're tackling next. But it is confusing because I don't know if you remember this story, but it looks like 2K is going to be making Lego games. Like they're finally shaking it up, and it's not just Warner Brothers. And so Sumo Digital, they're making a soccer game, which is probably going to do gangbusters. And then also Visual Concepts, who has made the NBA games, made the wrestling games. They're going to be making an open world racing game, which I feel like a throwback to Lego Racer. I think people are going to be gaga about.
Or was it Lego Island? Is that what?
Lego Island's huge too. Yep.
Yeah.
I feel like if you tap into that market of just the nostalgia for that weird offset Lego stuff, I think people
Just call it Lego Island too. Like, don't even just call
you're
it
right.
that. You know?
Absolutely.
There was a Lego NBA Jam thing at one, like there were like Lego NBA sets, right?
Yeah, totally.
So they could just, I mean, it's like, I think whenever there is any sort of sports tie-in on anything, it's just like infinite money. You know, it's just like, hey, you want to just like buy your favorite character, except they have a Lego jersey of your team. Like that's it. That's printing money.
That's printing money. That's what we care about here on this podcast. Speaking of printing money, how about those indie games, huh? we were like thinking about like what we wanted to talk about on the podcast this week, and there's a weird moment of just like, oh, it seems like obviously Elden Ring Pokemon Horizon. There's so many huge games out in this quarter, and it's like there's a lot of kind of good new indie games that aren't really maybe getting their time under the sun. One of them, which Leo talked about a little bit a couple weeks ago, and we want to talk about and unpack a little bit in the future a little bit more, is Weird West, which it feels like the cool, smart person's choice for Game of the Year at this point. Janet, you started it, right?
Yeah, I'm like 2 hours into it. I'm into it so far. I don't know if that'll change or how that'll evolve. It's funny because I was like playing it just pretty much cold, like for my audience, and people were like, how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how weird is it? The game's called Weird West. And I'm like, it's not very weird. It's just totally normal game. And then like some story stuff kicks up and I'm like, oh, now it's weird. And then like more story stuff kicks up. I'm like, now it's really weird. So it does get weird if you're looking for something to be a little bit funky, but I love I'm into it. The detailing of it. I think the art style is really cool.
Yeah.
It's an immersive sim and you can do a bunch of just really fun stuff. Again, it's kind of part of the genre, but even just something as simple as like, oh, you could walk into a fire and like light yourself on fire. Don't do that. When you see bodies, you can dig a hole and bury them. But then like, your shovel deteriorates.
That is the weirdest thing about
roll through a window. It's great.
Yeah. Like starting that game up and just like, hey, every animal you come across, every corpse, if you had a shovel, you can just bury everything you see. It's like, I love that just weird playground angle. I'm kind of into burying corpses. Little
stuff like, oil and like that, when you light that up, like the getting a really big blaze going.
Right.
I will say the thing and then I think the writing's really good and the voice acting's really good. Also, voice acting in a game that has text. I know not everyone can afford to do that, so I'm not shading you if you don't got voice acting in there, but thank God, because I'm like, I would love to not read. So this is pretty good. And there's some like really fun choices to be made. Like you, at one point early on, you interrogate someone and it's like, do you like vaguely threaten them, play the nice guy, or like break their finger? And then it's like, then you break another finger, and it's like they have it's just some fun choices, some fun world building.
Yeah.
The big knock against it at this point, I would say, and I know Leo had some comments on this too, but the shooting and like the combat, I'm mixed on it. I will say it's not good. I don't really know anyone that would play it and feel like it's good,
right.
But I wouldn't necessarily. I kind of hesitate to say it's bad. It's definitely a stylistic choice. I will say even in the style they did, they could have maybe done it a little smoother. So the way it works, it's like really stiff and kind of old school arcadey. But if you've played actually Oregon Trail on Apple Arcade, the combat kind of feels like that.
The
like
hunting
when you
in
get
that
out the
game?
wagon and you start just shooting people where it's like, oh, I don't really have good control over it and it's kind of going too fast. That's how the combat is. But there is stealth. So like that,
yeah.
I'm not like hating the combat. It's its own kind of fun, but I will say it's definitely not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And I think it is the weakest part of the game by like a pretty clear shot.
Yeah. It's on Game Pass though. So check it out. We'll be talking about it more in the future, I'm sure. And Leo, I'm sure, will be screaming about it at the end of the year discussion on the fun stuff. Speaking of endless screaming, more of a shrieking actually, is a couple weeks ago, Jacob Geller sent me a message on Slack. Just said, hey, there's this game. You're never going to remember the name of it. It's impossible to remember. It's called Norco, Norco. It's the greatest game ever created, and it's my new religion, and I need to talk about it as soon as possible. And it's been a couple weeks.
There'll be a Lego adaptation of it soon.
That's right. So I feel like I hope that the pressure has just been building inside of you, Jacob Geller, to talk about
Yeah,
Norco,
I do need to correct you that Norco is going to be the smart, cool person game of the year at the end of the year. Like, honestly, there's almost no question in my mind.
That's interesting. So this is on Game Pass as well, right?
It's on, but it's only on PC. So
that's
PC
why I couldn't
Game
find
Pass.
it there. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, which is weird, but it's like a point and click adventure, and so although I'm sure they could put it on console, it's like it's only mouse controls. It's like you use your mouse for everything, and so it's not a super. I don't know. You couldn't immediately see it on console.
I mean, to be fair, you can use a controller for it on PC. I started playing it. It's like
okay.
You're moving around. Basically controlling a mouse and hey, hold the right trigger to move the mouse faster, like that type of kind of clunky point and click adventure. So here are the things people are comparing Norco to. All you smart people are saying this is like Kentucky Route Zero, and this is a little bit like Disco Elysium. Is that
and a third one that's not a helpful reference to most people, but I think the game it is gameplay wise most like is Hideo Kojima's Snatcher.
Ooh, okay, interesting.
Because it's like it's more. There's more kind of like Disco Elysium is a hardcore role-playing game where there's no combat, so you just talk to everyone.
Yeah.
Kentucky Route Zero, an almost completely linear, just like walking simulator where you talk to people. And Norco is kind of a detective story, but not really a role-playing game. And so it's between those two, but you are like solving puzzles in a point and click fashion. And so there is a little more gameplay than something like Kentucky Route Zero, where you're really only walking from point to point.
So what is it? What made you jump out of your seat and say, huzzah, cool person game of the year?
Really, the thing about it is just one of those kind of like artistically singular games where the setting of this, the basis is like Norco is a small kind of poor town in Louisiana. It's got a giant oil refinery right in the middle of it. It's in the future, but in the very near and mostly unchanged future. It's like there are robots, but also everyone drives the same cars and lives in the same houses.
Love it.
Presumably because like the future is for rich people, and like this place has stayed the same because you need to have money to be able to do whatever. And your character is a young woman who's kind of been out of town for a while and came back because her mom died. And there's just this kind of mystery of like, what exactly happened with my mom's death, and where's my brother, and what's going on with this town. But it's just like, it is just an incredibly written game, and the writing about the city itself and the setting is incredible. The writing from the characters is really funny and offbeat and, you know, like really specific. And it just feels like someone writing about something that they like know exactly what the tone of what they're doing is. I don't know the history of the developers, but like it would be shocking to me if they were not from an area kind of like this.
Yeah, rural Louisiana. It definitely, I started it up. Kentucky Route Zero, I had a tough time with Jacob Geller, where it's like, I'm not smart enough for this. And Norco, I started up and I was like, I think I'm going to throw in the towel. It's one of those games that if you like games that feel like you're reading a book, and I ain't got nothing against reading. I like reading a good book, but it definitely is just like, okay, this is that weird fusion of a video game where it's 30 to 40% reading a book.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is mostly reading. I would say that it does the way that Disco Elysium figured out dialogue, which I know people also compare to reading a book, but like really what you are reading are like tweet length bits of text.
Yeah.
You know, it never asks you to actually read a page in even a way like, you know, finding a note in Skyrim does, where it's like the whole page is filled with text. It's just like, just read 200 characters at a time. And for me, that feels much more manageable and less like reading a book than some other games. But it is all reading, you know, like that is what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, the part that was interesting is building out your mind map, where you like go inside of your mind. And is that just like backstory stuff? Like what is going on with that weird mind map stuff?
Kind of. I mean, yeah. So you have access to your character's just brain. And basically, I think it's to help keep track of all of the characters in the story, because there are a lot. But like, as you learn about a character, you have this kind of, it's like a mental version of the beautiful mind wall with all the red string connecting different things, where it's like your mom knew this guy named Lucky. It's like, who is Lucky? And the first time you hear about him, it's just, there's a guy named Lucky. And then eventually you meet him. And so it'll fill in some more stuff. And then later you hear someone else talk about him. And so it fills in more stuff. And so really it's just kind of a history of all of the like clues that you've learned over the game. But because it's arrayed in this like really interesting way, they're like new writing, and you get to figure out how like the character you're playing as thinks about them versus just how you as a player think about them, which is an interesting distinction.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, stop me, everybody, if this is putting too much on Jacob Geller, but I mean, are we talking like you like this more than Elden Ring so far this year? I'm trying to figure out.
I mean, it's there could not be two more different games, but like in terms of kind of games that I like will think about while doing other stuff.
Yeah.
Like this is taking up more of my brain than Elden Ring, just because it's, it's the difference between like watching a sports game and watching like an art movie. It's like you're really invested while you're playing Elden Ring. And I think that game is thematically great as well. But Norco is like, it's built to linger. It's built to kind of,
that's a good way to put it,
stick around, and you'll see things in real life that will remind you of Norco. And yeah, it's right now it is my number 2 of the year behind Elden Ring. But
Wow.
like that's a weird distinction.
Yeah. Norco, everybody, if you're interested, Norco, just on PC for now. Hey, Janet, you also, I feel like it's been a while of you talking about, hey, I played a game called A Musical Story, which seems cool. And then Geller, you also played it?
I also played this game.
Oh, awesome. Janet, what is the hook for this thing?
Yeah, it's essentially like you're playing, it's a narrative game that you're like on a road trip, and it's also a rhythm game. It's more rhythm than narrative, I guess I'd say. The narrative's kind of in the background of the rhythm, and it's a rhythm game to its core, which means that you are, instead of being asked to put in button inputs, you're asked to replicate a rhythm. So it's a one button input game. And it's just, you're just following like the beat that's set for you, and the sort of additional supports that it adds if you maybe don't have the best rhythm or you're struggling with it. And the sequences are very short. It's like a couple measures if you were to write it, I guess, in sheet music, is they'll add sort of like a display on when you're supposed to like press the button the more you fail. And you can like toggle that on and off if depending on if you want like more help or if you don't want any help and you want to go like super hardcore in a musical story for some reason.
And then
that's
what I did.
Yeah? So
really?
there you go.
Okay,
I
I'm
didn't want
interested
the
to
notes.
hear what that is like then, because I played on just normal where they did add the supports, but I really liked it. Also, it has like really cool, interesting, stylized art.
It looks great.
So it's like this weird music video running in the background of like with that kind of has a story, and you're like out here just like playing songs. And the thing I really loved about it was that it reminded me of the nice monotony that can come from practicing an instrument, but it was easier than playing an instrument and it goes by quicker. So I'm like, oh, this is great. It's like gives you that taste. And it sort of helped to reinvigorate, I think, elements of playing music in real life that I sometimes struggle to re-engage with when, the last thing you ever want to do is sit down and practice. But I'm like, oh yeah, the playing stuff is fun.
Yeah. So watching the trailer, it seemed like it's about like a big music festival in the 70s called Pinewood, and it's people... You're like reliving the memories?
It's like the road trip to that music festival. It's like you're a small band and you get all your people in a van and go drive there, and stuff happens while you're driving.
But then it's a music rhythm game about experiencing that stuff again?
It's like you're on the road trip and the songs are kind of meant to be like the melody and the vibe of the song is meant to replicate like the mood.
So it's not So it's not all like in the past, because I think the trailer was confusing. It made it seem like you're in the hospital or something, like reliving these moments or some nonsense.
Well, you kind of are. Like you wake up, like spoilers for the first 10 seconds of the game. You're in a hospital, and it's kind of like the implication, at least in the beginning, is like, oh, maybe you're like in a coma and you're like looking back on what happened before. And I guess the gap between you being in the hospital and the road trip is unclear. Like, was this 30 years ago or 30 minutes ago? But yeah.
Is it fall into the camp of like kind of an interesting little thing, or does it fall into the camp of like, no, you need to play a musical story?
I think it's an interesting little thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like I beat it in an evening, you know, and like thought it was neat. The story itself isn't like, it's cute. Like it won't make you think about anything super differently, I think. But I agree with Janet that the most interesting part is like, it feels very different than other rhythm games because, like, I guess the easiest way to describe it is like there are no falling gems that it's like every other rhythm game I can think of. It's like, here comes the note, press it when it happens. And this, it's like, what if we just didn't show you those notes is kind of what it feels like. And so you really have to like think about rhythm of the song more than with Guitar Hero or Beat Saber or any of those.
That's cool. Huh.
Is this kind of like in the rhythm heaven kind of school of music games? Because that makes me more interested, actually. Because that's another music game that, no falling gems, nothing really displayed on screen necessarily.
Maybe it's very, I mean, the gameplay is very simplistic. Like I don't know. It's hard because it's not
it's like if you've ever done that exercise in like learning music where they want, you're trying to do the notes and your teacher might tell you to like clap the notes. It's like, what if instead of clapping, you're pressing a button on your controller?
Yeah. So it's not really something that you could get like hardcore into. Like there aren't like difficulty. It's not like I got so good at a musical story. But like it is, I don't know. It is just kind of a fun little thing.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's see. There is another game, Kyle. I think you checked it out, right? That I am smitten with, called Patrick's Parabox. I think it's just on Steam right now, but it is a puzzle game that is very much in the vein of like a Baba Is You. Not to that level of like, programming.
Was it that game, Steven's Sausage Roll?
Yeah.
That was what it was called?
Yep. So it feels like that, it's not like, you're programming with words like Baba Is You, but Kyle, correct me if I'm wrong. Patrick's Parabox, the entire premise is, hey, you're a box, and then there's another box, or maybe a couple other boxes in this little level, and then you have to get the boxes to one spot, and you have to get to another spot, and that's it. And then it escalates in a way which I would compare it to Baba Is You, where it starts out like, okay, this is the most obvious thing of all time, got it. And then it's so fun to play a puzzle game where you start to realize, oh, it's capable of this. Oh, it's capable of this. Oh my God, that's so clever. And it just keeps going deeper and deeper and deeper into how effed up this is. And like the easy explanation for where like the first level of it is like, okay, you have to move this box to this part of the map and then get yourself to this part of the map. But then what if there's another box that has a little maze-like pattern inside of it? And when you try to go up against that box, you go inside of that box and shrink down. So now you're shrinking inside of a box, and maybe you shrink down inside another box, inside that box, as you're trying to navigate.
Infinite, shrinking and it's the kind of puzzle game which Baba Is You and Steven's Sausage Roll, that was the one it mainly reminded me of, where I was very quickly like, oh, okay, this is going to get hard as hell.
Yes.
Like really fast. Because it's about like shrinking into like, also see yourself outside, and like there's a larger version of you existing outside of the. It's like what was that game? Maquette?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that sounds like the concept of Maquette, except
like that
game didn't do it well.
It's like that, but
I don't know if I go that far.
grid-based box puzzles.
Right.
Like
right.
That's kind of what it is. And yeah, I played through the whole. There's a demo which is free, which is also. Which was nice. It is Mac compatible, which is nice. a nice little thing. So I played through it on my Mac, and it's cool, and it seems like it will get very hard if you really want to dig into it deeper.
I guess there's like 350 puzzles. I look forward to having the same arc as Baba Is You, where it's like, oh, I like it. This is so fun, and then by the end, it's like, okay, well, I need to give up now, but I'm still going to have very fond memories of this. But like, yeah, I was in love with it because I got to play with my girlfriend, and she's 1,000 times smarter than I am. I'm sorry, my fiance. And she's so much smarter than I am. And so it's just a matter of like, all right, I will help out where I can here and there, but I will just watch your brain wrap its gigantic mind around this thing and just like rapid firing through these levels. It's a great way to play games if you don't really like puzzle games, is just watching somebody who is super good at puzzles figure all this stuff out.
Yeah.
Also weird when that happens with someone who like does not play games that much. Like that happened with a friend with The Witness, where like I showed a friend The Witness and they just like, not a huge gamer, but like made it through so much faster than me, just because it's like, well, their brain is built for puzzles and mine is built for kicking people with a sword.
There's like a genre that is some kind of, I don't know what we would call it, like Myst, I feel like was the starting line for that. And then that game exists for like people who don't usually play games really love this kind of game, but also people who like games play it and really enjoy it too.
Totally.
But it's based around puzzles specifically.
Yeah, but Patrick Traynor made this game. It's called Patrick's Parabox on Steam if you want to check it out with that free demo and all that fun stuff. And then another game that we've been meaning to talk about for a while, Far Changing Tides. Came out a while ago now. This is the sequel to the very confusingly named Far Lone Sails. Kyle,
Right.
The easy pitch from my perspective, and you correct me where I'm wrong, it looks like it could be a Play Dead game, except it's about a boat.
Yeah, Play Dead about a boat.
Okay,
That's
great.
what it's called. Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's because it's side-scrolling puzzle, and then the sort of the boat, and in the last game it was a vehicle, it was like a car. Is like you are basically in charge of moving this large vehicle from left to right over the course of the game, and sometimes that means you're like fixing things that are breaking. Sometimes that means you're adding new hardware on top of it that you find in the environment to get past certain things. At a certain point, your boat becomes a submarine. And then it's like you're managing the engine and stuff like that. So it's this really cool kind of like slow moving look at this really great looking environment as you kind of manage this vehicle, but not to the point where it's like too stressful, right? It's not like, was it FTL, right? Where you're sort of jumping around trying to like manage a bunch of things. It's all very manageable, and it's really more puzzle focused than strategy. It's
like Inside meets Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time?
Yeah, totally. I didn't know if that was a good point of reference. I don't know how many people played Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time. But,
Not enough.
Not enough.
Yeah, it's a good game.
So you gave that last game an 8.25. Went back and looked it up. That Far Lone Sails.
Yeah.
And Far Changing Tides is just kind of feel like more of that, but it's such a cool, unique thing that...
Yeah, it's like, for better or worse, it really is just a straight extension of that game. Like, it feels like a sequel that doesn't really re-examine the core idea too much, but it's like there's enough cool stuff and there's enough ties to the first game where it's like it's enjoyable to play, and there's a lot of cool sequences. And like if you like Play Dead stuff and like another sort of thing that has become a genre, like absolutely check out whatever this game is called. I've already forgotten.
Yeah, this is the thing. When you bring this up at the end of the year, Kyle, if you're not able to recall that name, Far Changing Tides, you're out. You're out of the debate.
I'm out?
Dude. You're out.
Oh no.
I feel like that's unfair to games that have not great names.
If it's that great,
I'm not okay with these discriminatory policies.
Yeah.
I just feel like
don't forget Norco. Do not forget that game is
I already
called Norco.
can't remember that Patrick game.
yeah, that's true. I have had to Google that
These are
1,000
all
times.
Yeah. Say what you want about Musical Story, but it sounds like what it is. It is what it is, and I can say it.
Yeah.
I will also say Norco, hard to Google because I think intentionally, like, it's the name of a narcotic.
Oh, that's tough. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot going on there with that SEO.
Which, is like, I'm sure it's intentional, but like, you gotta Google Norco game.
You gotta do it. Hey, speaking of that musical thing real quick, there is a game that is on the horizon that I'm so curious about. I'm curious if you all know about it, but it used to be called Chorus, and now it's called Stray Gods.
Oh, you mean Chorus?
Corvs?
No, not like that.
B.
Not the sci-fi shooting thing. That was a different Chorus game. So this was a game
more than one?
Yes, there's more than one Chorus. There's Core I. That's why this thing is now called Stray Gods. But it's David Gator, who's a big writer at BioWare, especially with the Dragon Age series. But their mission is to make a video game musical, and then the composer for the game is Austin Wintory from Journey and Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
Looks cool.
Yeah, and it's dealing with like Greek gods, so it might have some rub off Hades love in there. But I was thinking about it with the musical story because that's what I thought it was at first, Jan. I was like, oh, is that David Gator BioWare musical game? And not quite, but
and the hottest Broadway musical is Hades Town.
That's true.
So, like, lots of ground to pull fans from there, maybe.
Yeah, who knows? Okay, I was gonna say real quick, but hey, this doesn't got to be quick, Janet. We can talk about this as long as you want. You finished Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
Yes.
Which, if you're a big historian of MinnMax, you might have listened to last week's episode where I revealed that, you know what? I don't think I respected Kirby enough. I've played several of his lovely games and have enjoyed them, but I was a little dismissive about Kirby and the Forgotten Land. And I felt so bad about it, Janet, that Janet's showing her phone, which is covered in Kirby paraphernalia. So I felt so bad about it, I went and bought the game, and I have also finished playing Kirby and the Forgotten Land. And I will now join you. I'm a big fan of this game. I regret my words and deeds. I'm all in on Kirby and the Forgotten Land at this point. And like it took a while.
Oh my God, what changed? I want to actually hear from you then. Like what happened?
Well, what happened is I was looking for something to play other than Elden Ring. And
heart grew 2 sizes larger.
I'm not proud to admit it, but a big part of it too was like going to GDC threw off my entire podcast routine, and I need to go through like 10 podcasts a day or whatever the hell. And so I was super backed up on podcasts. I need a good podcast game, but I couldn't play Elden Ring because we were recording our discussion, which we recorded a bonus discussion talking about the middle section of the game, which is up on our YouTube channel right now. And so I was at a good stopping point for that discussion. So I needed something to play and something to go through all these podcasts with. So yeah, I bought Kirby and started playing it, and like, it's one of those where the first couple worlds is like, this is all very pleasant. But if you hook my brain up to a scanner, I don't think a single thing would be going off. You know, it's just kind of like pleasant video game flatline. And then the more I kept playing it, the more I was like, I really occasionally appreciate a game where you're never confused. You always know exactly where to go. And then every once in a while you get one of those like, that's kind of clever. That's about it. And then I kept going with it and started thinking like, I'm a big defender of Sackboy's Big Adventure. And I feel like this is in that arena of just kind of, underappreciated, solid little platforming experiences. And then I got to the end and I was like, I think this is a better game than Sackboy's Big Adventure. Because without spoiling anything, Janet, that ending is bonkers in a delightful way.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Kirby and the Forgotten Land was never a bad game, but it continuously gets better as you progress through it. I think even if whether you're hotter or colder on it than like me or Ben, I feel like that's pretty true. Like even if you ended up leaving this game and not liking it, I think you would still feel like it got better as it went on.
Totally.
Yeah, the ending is insane. And, Kyle, I forgot if it was on content, but you pointed out that like the Kirby games often get kind of crazy at the end. Like you're flying through space and you're fighting God and stuff. Like,
well, that's the thing. But like, yeah, because Kyle, you mentioned, you're obsessed with the ending of Planet Robobot and how it turns into Star Fox at the end.
Yeah,
and like,
and I'm not just like Star Fox. Like Kirby turns into a spaceship, and you are an R-wing, fighting things. Yeah,
and I love the idea of Hal just cranking out Kirby game after Kirby game, and everyone being like, "Yeah, it's another Kirby game." But then secretly, it's like, "No, if you finish this though, that's where we go off the deep end and just go nuts." And if you play through it, you know. If you know, you know.
Yeah, and what was really impressive to me was like just so many things, honestly, because I think ending games is like super hard. In general, endings are hard. That's why people usually hate the ending of all their favorite shows, because it's so difficult to finish something in a way that's going to be satisfying and hit all these different marks. And I think Kirby just really, I haven't, this sounds so over the top, but I genuinely mean it. Like, I'm not exaggerating. I haven't enjoyed an ending of a game this much since Deathloop. Like, Deathloop's final sequence of like that glory, where I was like, yeah, this is what I want endings of games to be like, instead of just like, let me guess, I'm fighting some boss, playing Kirby, I figured, there's a bunch of boss battles in it. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to fight something. I'm not sure what it is yet, but someone's going to show up and I'm going to fight them. But they had like a suite of levels leading up to the boss. Like, it was really a cohesive idea where I'm like,
really weird.
Oh, this feels like it would be the end of the game, but I know I got like 2 things left. So like, this isn't the final boss yet, but it's like the ending is the greatest hits of the game itself, which is really impressive. They're like, we're going to show you everything that makes this game awesome. You're going to go through all these different abilities. The level design is going to get interesting. There's going to be some cool combat moments, and we're not even done yet. And then they just continue to scale it up. And the end, some of the ending parts also get quite challenging. And like one of the bosses also gave me a problem. The one that looks like a little
armadillo,
like made of like, the dingo thing or whatever.
Yeah, Silly Dillo is this MFer's name.
Silly Dilly whooped my ass.
Yes.
I can't even lie. I was live on Twitch getting my ass whooped in this
a Kirby
easy game. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, y'all, the game wasn't like this before. Silly Dilly, like, trying to get promoted. Like, Silly Dilly's like, I'm going to go above and beyond on this paper. I brought up a poster board. Like, obviously you just learned how to dodge and then it's not as bad. But like,
I'm with you.
It blew me away.
It is weird because, in the beginning, it lets you choose your difficulty level. And I chose the harder one, which is kind of normal. Otherwise, compared to what easy spring breeze mode, or whatever the hell the other one's called. And so like, I can handle normal in a Kirby game. That's it. And I mean, it is laughably stupid easy. And then it was like, okay, you fight King DDD at a certain point around halfway through the game. It's like, that was something. And then the Silly Dillo MFer comes out there and it's like, what's happening? And okay, I want to phrase this correctly, but genuinely, by the time the final boss rolls around in this game, I was more frustrated by the final boss in Kirby than anything I've done in Elden Ring so far. Now, I'm not saying it's harder than Elden Ring bosses by any means, but just my own level of frustration of like genuinely swearing at the TV, because it's just this confusing thing of like, wait, what? I'm dying like 4 times to this Kirby final boss? It's absurd.
My heart was racing in that final boss. Like, I was stressed and depressed. Like, the only reason it didn't give me problems in terms of me having to do it multiple times, I didn't die, was because I got an ability that gave me basically like a health buff. No spoilers if you know. Like, I upgraded like all the abilities. So then I was like, okay, cool. That saved me, because I'm like, without that, I probably would have had to like be a little bit better, because the thing is, Kirby moves really slow, so it does end up being in that like Demon Souls vibes where it's like it just takes me so long to dodge and get out of the way, and you try and get your hits in, and then the area of attack is so big. I'm like, how am I supposed to die? And playing this game, I'm like, there are going to be a lot of kids that are going to need to call in the older sibling in this game, because it takes off the gloves and it will just beat you down. I'm like, there's a child somewhere crying at this boss right now, and the child's me. I look in the mirror and it's me crying at this boss, and I don't know what's going on.
That's beautiful. And it's cool, like, you have your Waddle Dee town that upgrades throughout, and I'm a sucker for that, and you unlock Kirby's house, and you can unlock the ability to go fishing and all these little mini games and stuff in there. It's like, this is cool. Plus, you got the classic boss, Clawlorine, which is...
Clawlorine? I don't know why they put that sexy boss in there. That was really upsetting for me. That's the only part of the game I don't like. Don't know why she's built her. She's
like, why was she created? Well, you have to... I mean, the lore gets pretty complicated at the end of this game. I feel like they're trying to explain why Clawlorine exists. But I was trying to think of... There's a certain video game boss trope that I really love, which is, help me out if you can think of other examples, but it's the boss who's agile and who jumps up and hangs onto the edge of the screen and throws down like throwing knives. And it's like, it's
Vamp. Chameleon.
Vamp, totally, Kid Chameleon. I was thinking, like, I just played this Skate or Die game on the Game Boy that has that. Like, there's regrettably named Chief Wigwam from Sunset Riders. Like, that is just such a classic boss trope of just jump to the side on the wall, cling to it, and then throw down little knives at you. Always fun. Always a good time. So yeah, Kirby won me over. I'm not trying to get too hyperbolic with this thing, but just like absolutely better than I expected, and a super solid little platformer that does a lot more than the demo implied to me, at least.
How long did it take you?
It was like,
beat it?
I think how long did Beat has it at 9 hours? That sounds about right.
Yeah. It took me longer, I think, by a good bit, but I did like almost all the side stuff. Like, Ben, did you spend much time in the side content and all?
No,
like the
there's
challenge levels.
Yeah, the challenge levels are super fun. I didn't finish all of those. Like some of those, like the bomb chaining ones, I couldn't really wrap my mind around and stuff.
Some of those are hard too.
Yeah,
like, they have difficulty scales. When it's 3-star, like it's genuinely challenging.
Totally.
So I don't know. I feel like I spent maybe closer to 20. I haven't checked my in-game clock, but I did a lot of it on stream, and I spent at least like 5 hours ending the game and a couple hours. Yeah, so I'm more in the low double digits personally.
But yeah, I'd like to personally apologize to our boy Kirby. And Staircase Kirby is going to be our character of the year, I think, because he's just such a little charmer, that little staircase version of Kirby.
This is definitely one of the best games I've played this year. I haven't made my top 10 yet. I'm going to make that sometime probably this week. This is probably going to be in the top 5, I think.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah. Hey, Janet, do you know how this whole thing operates? Take a big swig and then let us know how you think this whole thing operates.
I'm not going to take the swig, but I'm going to go ahead and say Patreon.
That's right. Patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. If you like the show, you can help support the show and help support independent games media so we can bring on the contributors more often and help support those folks for jumping in. We appreciate it. Patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. And thank you to all of our bigger supporters like Asmodee Games. They want everybody to know about the new version of Azul. Azul is genuinely in my top 5 for favorite tabletop games of all time. It's an incredible game, and this is the new expansion to Azul, which has a whole theme of planting a garden instead of just building out kind of these bizarre Portuguese tile sets. In this one, you're actually planting a garden. They said it has new dual matching mode. Players play tiles and score by matching the tiles as patterns or colors, but cannot play 2 tiles that share both patterns and colors next to each other. But it's basically a more complex version of Azul. Has anybody else played Azul? You should play
I
Azul.
have it, but I haven't played it actually.
Kyle, it looks like you switched to the wrong mic, by the way. But Azul,
no.
like I remember early on when I was getting into tabletop games, I was like, what's a good tabletop game? Or maybe the best. And I remember John Carson, who's now at Game Informer, he immediately recommended Azul. I was like, that's a weird name. I don't know about that. And now it's genuinely incredible. So the new expansion, Azul Queen's Garden, I haven't played yet, but I'm looking forward to checking it out. And follow MinnMax on Twitter because we'll be giving away copies later in the month. We just gave away 5 copies of Voices in My Head. So thanks for all that help on the tabletop front. Also, speaking of tabletop games, it's going to keep rolling because we also have I Am 8-Bit, who is partnering, and they created the Eastward Limited Edition board game. Remember Eastward from last year, Janet?
Yeah.
Yeah, that delightful JRPG throwback indie RPG from last year.
Pan.
That's right. Now they created a board game. It's a 2 to 4 player co-op game, and it's a very cool, funky thing. You can find it at I Am 8-Bit's online store. The funky thing that I'm still trying to wrap my brain around is you can buy the board game for Eastward. You can also get the vinyl soundtrack to Eastward. But then with the vinyl soundtrack, there's a separate tabletop game. But then if you combine them, one acts like an expansion for the other. There's a lot going on here, and it seems very cool. So you can help support cool stuff like this by going to I Am 8-Bit's online store and using the promo code. All right, every month they shake it up just to keep people from, just posting it on Reddit and stuff. So this month, everybody, you can get 10% off everything in I Am 8-Bit's wonderful online store by using the promo code National Soft Pretzel Month. No spaces. National Soft Pretzel Month is your secret shortcut for 10% off everything in I Am 8-Bit's wonderful online store, including the Eastward Limited Edition board game. And because they're so generous, each and every week, they ship out a prize to somebody from the MinnMax community. If you support us at any tier over on Patreon, even that $2 tier, not only do you get access to the Discord, you get to submit questions to the show, comments and stuff for the deepest dive. You get to compete in Trivia Tower, but you submit questions to the show, and we choose our favorite, and then I Am 8-Bit ships out a wonderful online prize. And this time they're shipping out Mega Man X, the Legacy cartridge, which is very tough to find, Kyle, and I know that it's quite a prize. So we need to look alive and remember each and every great question submitted here, and then we're gonna choose our favorite, and that person gets Mega Man X. Ready to go? Great. Yeah. Janet, I understand you're a very busy woman. Would you mind giving us one solid clap? Kelsey Lewin, welcome to the show.
Hi, that's me.
Should I say contributor Kelsey Lewin?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thanks for being here. The co-director of the Video Game History Foundation. Welcome. It's an honor to have you on board as an official contributor, Kelsey.
It's an honor to be elected, chosen, however this democratic process works.
Yeah, it was on a ballot in all 50 states, and people chose you to come on as contributors, so congratulations.
Honored.
Has there been like a favorite reaction so far? A reaction that surprised you, Kelsey, with the announcement of the contributor role here?
There were like memes that happened, which I thought was really sweet.
It is
like there were a couple, meme images in like the Resetera thread. Also, hold on, is it Resetera or Reset Era?
I don't know. I say Resetera.
And also, what is that? Why is it a big deal when there's like a new forum thread? This is something I've never understood.
I mean, there's got to be a go-to place for talking about the game industry, right? Like a number one forum, and I guess it just became the default one. I don't know. It's big.
Can not anyone make a thread?
There's a confusing thing. You need to there's a whole approval process. You need to wait.
You can't have a Gmail email. It's complicated.
Is that really what it is?
That was something like that. I remember trying to sign up a long time ago, and I was like, you can't use Gmail. I was like, oh, okay.
Confusing. But yeah, thanks to everybody who posted about us there. We appreciate it. It is weird to have GIFs made of you, which we were talking about before the show, and then like just the meme stuff. Like it is a weird layer of flattery on the internet that almost offsets mean comments. I think it makes it all worthwhile in a big way.
I went on the MinnMax Discord yesterday and I was not searching for this, but I just happened to see that like a new emoji of like my face in the Game Enforcer article where they put like glasses and a mustache on me. Like that's a new thing on the MinnMax Discord.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Okay, Kelsey, you ready to get to all these community questions?
I'm ready.
Okay, great. Here we go. Jared R. Meyer writes in and says, hey, cohorts and contributors. The games journalism / influencer industry seems pretty cozy. That's interesting. With lots of crossovers across various shows and mediums. Insert request for another triple click crossover here. Hey, we're down to do it whenever. Actually, I just reached out to him not too long ago, so we'll see. However, I doubt it's possible you all have met everybody else in your industry. So who is somebody in your industry whom you don't already know personally that you'd like to get to know? Somebody you've admired from afar and would love to get lunch with, pick the brain, share stories with. Kyle, is there anybody for you?
I don't know. I'm like, now I'm sort of wrapping my brain because I think when you offered up this question, I was like, yeah, thumbs up. And I'm like, who is I thumbs up? And that's not to say I know everybody or anything. There's a ton of people I don't know. But gosh, I'm sorry. No one's coming to straight to the top of my head.
You're just that cool? You already know everybody?
I'm that cool.
Well,
I'm that cool.
I do feel like the specific way in which everyone in this industry knows each other is we all follow each other on Twitter.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, we're not necessarily all friends, but there's like that weird, I don't know what level of knowing someone that is, where it's like you comment on things from each other sometimes, but like you've never had dinner with them.
Right.
Like if you meet them in person, there might be a conversation that's like, oh yeah, we've interacted on Twitter before.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
we have that.
I think
we'll always have that.
There's people that are like you're Twitter friends with, but there's still a pretty good chance you'd walk right by them on the sidewalk and not even acknowledge it. Unless like their face was just literally, they're wearing a mask of their Twitter profile picture. I feel like that's the only way that maybe you could kind of get that across. It is weird. I was thinking about GDC. And I was thinking about like, I wonder how many people here I've like listened to on a podcast and just have no idea what they look like. Like I've heard so many developer interviews on podcasts and stuff, and it's like, it's all just in one ear, out the other. But if I could track it, I bet it'd be a shocking degree of people in this building right now I've listened to in a podcast at some point.
For me, everyone on YouTube is my coworker and in my sphere. So, you know, like Logan Paul, Jenna Marbles,
Smart,
Mr. Beast.
Absolutely. Your peers.
Your BFFs.
No, that they're going to be. The person that came to mind, I think, here is the thing that we all envy. Being able to not be in these circles, to just like make content and then like exist kind of outside the internet or whatever. And for me and my, specific interests, that's this guy named Noah Caldwell Gervais who makes YouTube like essays like me, but like is not really in the kind of games discourse sphere. Like, I'm pretty sure he's going to school for like auto repair, like just seems like it's like a cool normal person who just happens to write about video games and not like one of us who are all like mind melded with the Twitter games discourse. And so he like, I don't feel like I know him very well, even though we do technically follow each other on Twitter, but like I would love to get dinner with that guy.
Yeah, that's a special breed of cat who can be big online, but then also is like, and then I have no interest in following the ebbs and flows of whatever online world is saying. Like, right. I was thinking, Kelsey, I think a while ago, we were talking about Trivia Tower, I think, and different guests for Trivia Tower. And you said like, oh, I could connect you with like some big YouTubers that I know. And it's one of those weird things like, yeah, maybe this is just from my own very limited perspective, but it feels like, is there kind of like the gaming press circle on Twitter and then like the big YouTuber circle, and those aren't quite fully overlapped yet? Like two different cultures?
Yeah, and I think, Jacob, you can probably relate to this. It's like, as someone who maybe straddles both spheres a little bit, it's like those are separate universes. Like I was just at a charity stream this weekend, which was awesome, and it was all YouTube people, and like there wasn't a single like games press person that I was friends with. So it was like not that it's like insular or anything. It's just like those people know those people, and these people know these people, and sometimes you have some people who are kind of in the middle and know some from each side, but I do feel like they're two kind of separate things.
It's really weird.
Yeah, I feel like I'm almost a pretender in that I know way more games journalist people than I do YouTubers. And like people will bring up like, oh, well, you must know this person on YouTube. I'm like, I don't know. I'm sure they're nice.
Yeah, honestly.
Well, I've never been a games journalist, but I feel like I'm still in that. I mean, unless you count going on podcasts. something.
Yeah, I mean,
we're having a
there's-
podcast, but like it's not. I've never written for a magazine or a website or anything. Yet I'm fairly, I know a lot of people in that sphere, I guess.
There's this thing called VidCon, which is like the YouTuber convention in LA, and like I know people who are going there, and it's like if I went, everyone would be a mystery.
Right.
Like I wouldn't know anyone there.
Yeah, I'm really done with that stuff. Even like I was at Leo's place just like last month or so, and he made some joke about Mr. Beast, and I was like, "Who is this?" He's like, "Mr. Beast." Like, that's the dumbest name I've ever heard. I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, "There's no way you've never seen a Mr. Beast video on YouTube." I'm like, absolutely not. And then we pull it up and just watch Mr. Beast videos for like half an hour, and it's like, this is a bizarre world. And I guess I'm fortunate that I wasn't that plugged in, but yeah, that's probably just being too naive. It's nice to see, who's actually being successful on YouTube. What do they look like? How can we be like them?
The secret is to just give away vast quantities of money, apparently.
Is that what it is? Interesting.
That's what Mr. Beast does.
Kelsey, what's the story of your YouTube channel? Is that how you kind of blew up in a way? Was building up your successful YouTube channel?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I was someone who wanted to share the research I was doing, and like blogs and articles and print media and all that stuff seemed like a thing where it's a lot harder to just stake your ground in those areas.
Yeah.
And I thought people would resonate well with video. I don't even really like making videos. Like, I don't enjoy the process of editing or anything like that. I just like I essentially like the part where I write an article, the research, and then like writing the script, and then everything after that is like, I'm doing this because I think this will work better.
Right.
And it did.
That's interesting. Why did you slow down with your channel?
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I started running a foundation in addition to running a couple of stores, and it just, it's funny though, because it came up several times during GDC where I was like, maybe I should be doing this again. Like, there are people who know me from that, and that might be like a nice thing to have, and also like a good outlet for myself, because I don't really get to do that kind of work very much anymore.
Yeah. Which kind of work? Just the research and kind of deep dive type stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
Huh. Well, you're welcome to do it with MinnMax if you ever want to. You're welcome to yell into a mic about whatever the hell you want. But yeah, Jared's
You gonna
question.
edit it for me?
Yeah, as long as it's simple, I could do that. Yeah, I'm fast enough. I could take care of it.
I don't think any of us actually answered the question.
Yeah,
So Jacob answered the question. So I'll throw out an answer.
Please.
Alana Pierce. I've never met her, and she's fantastic, and I admire her a lot. And I think she's like a year older than me, which makes me feel terrible about myself all the time. I'm like, I'm never gonna be that successful. But
you said 2 minutes ago that you were managing several stores, and
also the co-director of the Video Game History
I
Foundation. You're
left
doing
my
fine.
house in like 3 months.
the internet has a funny way of warping, your view of how you're doing in life.
Totally.
It's like, but there's someone doing it better. I think she's very inspiring and cool and interesting. So
Yeah, I
I
think
would like to meet her someday.
I think she's certainly up there for like most impressive people in the industry, especially the part that blows my mind is Play, Watch, Listen, I think is my favorite gaming podcast these days. And the fact that she does that, and then she's also working at Santa Monica with Sony, like having a PlayStation employee being out there and being that open and honest is like unprecedented. The fact that she has that much power and sway to be able to pull that off contractually, however the hell that happened, is just like all hail the queen. That is incredible. And the little bit I've talked to her, it's just like, oh, she seems very cool. I don't know if it's like an Australian thing. Remember, like it was E3 years and years ago, talking around a roof for a while, and it was immediately it's like, well, this is the most down to earth person I've ever talked to in my life. Like, this is amazing. And there's some, pardon my French, some Australian je ne sais quoi, as people say, where it's just everyone just seems cool and down to earth. I don't know. For my answer for Jared's question here, it's a weird one, but the Area 5 folks, the video production team, who were the old One Up Show production team, like huge inspirations for me, huge idols. I devoured all of their videos back at One Up, and I've never really crossed paths with any of them. which
You missed them by like 3 hours at GDC. They were in the Video Game History Foundation office.
Are you
earlier.
serious?
I didn't know. I would have told you.
What the hell? Oh my God. Were they filming stuff?
Yes, not for us though.
Oh, interesting.
Well, I have no idea how much I'm allowed to say.
Don't say it. That's fine.
They were in there
probably
filming.
they're probably looking to interview people who are very inspired by
Right,
their run and
right. Yeah, no, at some point I'd love to podcast with like Matt Chandler or something. It'd be fun. But let's see. Chris Logan writes in and says, "Hello, Ben and the Horts. Is there a lie you told as a kid that was mostly harmless, yet you still feel bad about it?" This might be a running theme for this episode.
So I have this isn't like video game related, but it's one I think about a lot. I don't feel bad about it, but I think it's really funny that as a kid I thought I could get away with this. Where like, I was really young. I had probably only had one sleepover at a friend's house who like lived up the street. But every time my mom cooked a meal or some kind of food that I didn't want to try, I adamantly tried to convince her that the one night I had not been home that I spent at my friend's house, we had tried that meal and I didn't like it, so I didn't need to try it again. And like after like a year or two, like it sounded like we had eaten like a 12-course dinner during this like sleepover with all these different kinds of meals and different things. I mean, my mom never bought it for a second, but I was like, no, we definitely had this really obscure experimental food that you're trying to see if I like at my friend's house a couple months ago. We definitely did.
I would love to go back and see what that experimental food was. She's probably just like, I don't know, try cauliflower, you idiot. And you're like, no, I can't. Trust me, I can't.
I tried it and I hated it. It made me throw up. I didn't call you when I was throwing up to come home, but I threw up.
I throw up all the time when I'm over at friends' houses.
Yeah, they can't get enough of me. They love my company.
I have a stupid one, and it wasn't a lie because I believed it because I'm an idiot.
Smart.
So it was a fundamental misunderstanding of, I don't know, how the world works. My uncle is very good at drawing, and he drew a picture of Hamtaro when like Hamtaro was kind of, I think it was actually a little before it was hitting the States, because I was living in a town with a very high Japanese population, so it was like kind of preview of this new thing that was going to be really cool, Hamtaro. My uncle drew a picture of it, and for some reason the wires connected in my brain that like he was an animator on the show because he could draw it really well. So I started telling people that my uncle was an animator for Hamtaro because he can clearly draw it really well. So that must mean that's his job. I don't know. But everyone in my class believed me, and I haven't gone back and corrected that. So as far as anyone knows.
I bet like it still comes up in some people's lives. Like that's a big deal. You got like that ounce of talent or like some connection to some big thing. Like I remember I thought it was the coolest thing in the world that in my small town in Minnesota, a friend of mine, their uncle animated on the old show called Roly Poly Oly. Do you remember this guy?
Or they just said that because he could draw it really well.
Yeah, that probably is what it was. Yeah, but that's enough to be like, oh my God, celebrity in our midst. Look at this. That's it. Just you got to lie just a little bit as a kid. You can really bump up your social game in a big way. Donnie writes in and says, "Hey friends and welcome contributors. Is it too soon to fantasize about what Elden Ring DLC could look like?" No, not too soon. I mean, I don't want it right now, but you can fantasize. And then
is it going to be DLC?
I think they implied something, didn't they? In a
yeah,
post?
I mean, there almost always is, I guess, except for Sekiro. And even Sekiro, there was like some downloadable stuff. There's a place on the map where people think it's going to be.
Right.
Because the map is kind of shaped like a moon or something, and there's a place in the middle of the ocean that has a bunch of clouds over it, and so people think that that's what it is.
Interesting.
I think the hardest thing about it is Elden Ring is so much bigger than every other game that they've made that if they released a DLC the size of like what they did for, Bloodborne or whatever, it would feel tiny just because Elden Ring is like 5 times the size of Bloodborne. And so I don't know. I really hope that they do make DLC, but also it's like, are they scaling that up to the same extent that they scaled up everything else about the game?
Yeah. But then Donnie asks, is DLC ever something you get excited for as much as the main game? Yeah.
Never.
No.
Not once
Never?
in my entire
much as
life.
a main game?
What about what? Okay, what? This made me think about Assassin's Creed Discovery Tours. I'm much more interested in playing those weird Discovery Tours educational versions of the game than I am about ever really finishing Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Please, but wandering around ancient Greece and learning about stuff, that seems great. So that's
What?
it.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have picked up that game in the first place.
Yeah.
So I agree that I am more excited about that than the regular Assassin's Creed, but I don't think I've ever been more excited for a DLC than for the actual game.
Back when I was a big The Binding of Isaac player,
Yeah.
there were several DLCs that kind of like several times over have added as much content as was in the game again. You know, like it would just be like, here are 150 new items. And like, since that game is all built on just like finding new items and whatever, I was really, really psyched when that stuff came out. And they've continued to do it, and I haven't touched it in like 4 years. But like, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
One I was going to quickly mention was like weirdly the Castlevania Lords of Shadow DLC. I was like really excited for because that game I was excited for it to come out, and then I played it and I really was like turned off by the first 2 levels to the point where I put it down for a few months. And then I picked it back up and like absolutely fell head over heels in love with it and like just adored it. And then the ending is really cool. And the ending is like this huge big twist that really left it open for like, oh my God, where does this thing go next? And so I was like more excited for the DLC in that instance, only because I had enjoyed the game leading up to it so much.
But then did the DLC touch on the modern day Dracula
really.
stuff and whatnot?
Yeah, not really. It was just kind of like it sort of went like, you know, right before the ending and added a couple more levels, and it was good and I liked it, but it didn't extend. It didn't like pick up where the twist really left you hanging. And then Lords of the Shadow 2 came out and picked it up, and it was kind of like, oh, okay, I guess I didn't actually want that.
Turns out, yeah, I want a good game, not just a good story concept. Hey, Kelsey, before I forget, did I already talk to you about this? Have you ever played those Alpha Dream Hamtaro games?
Yeah. Ham Heartbreak was like one of my go-tos on the Game Boy Advance.
Are they as good as I thought? Because I really took a deep dive into Alpha Dream recently, and like the reviews are surprisingly strong for these Hamtaro games.
They're great.
Really?
They are like just so. I mean, I had no idea as a kid, like that it was going to be a game I cared about. I just liked Hamtaro, and I was like, yeah, I'll pick up the Hamtaro game, licensed property I enjoy. Yeah, played the heck out of that game. It's super good.
Is it an RPG?
Yeah, it's like, it doesn't have like battles. It's like an adventure game with puzzle solving. I guess there's not real battles. It's like, it's a lot of like puzzle solving, but not like, there's a really easy way to describe this that I'm just totally whiffing on right now, but it's
just kind of like adventure puzzles and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I mean, it's an adventure game, and you'll like get new abilities that allow you to solve new puzzles and that sort of thing.
This might be naive. What is the deal with Hamtaro? It's just cute hamsters? Are they in balls rolling
you
around?
Got it. No, they're not in balls.
Oh,
You got
okay.
it. And cute hamsters, you got it.
Cute Japanese hamsters.
It's like
Okay, cool.
Secret Life of Pets, right? I'm sure you're a huge fan of that movie. It's like you get to see the hamster's life outside of, you know, them being hamsters. The child walks away and then they go on adventures and they got to make it back to their cage by the end of the day or something.
Yeah, there's just a ton of different hamster characters, and they all got their own kind of like storylines and stuff going on. There's like a love triangle between some hamsters. Yeah, it's, you know.
They eat
For
their
me,
young.
Hamtaro was the first place where I saw like a cartoonishly large bead of sweat when someone was stressed. Like that's the first TV show where it's like, oh, I see what they're doing.
What a strange thing to remember.
It was probably the first like anime adjacent show that I saw. You know, that it was like all American TV, and then this was there on like, you know, CW mornings as well for some reason.
That is.
Yeah, it's anime. Like, and I had this realization actually as I was watching Agretsuko on Netflix, and they're like, you know, genre thing under it is anime, and I was like, yeah, I guess it is. Like, I wouldn't classify it as that in my head, but like that flipped a switch and I was like, oh yeah, and also Hamtaro is anime. Like it's an anime, but it's hamsters.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like the first piece of anime content that I absorbed, and this is really dumb, but I remember a friend of mine had like a huge collection of PlayStation 1 games that his uncle pirated from Thailand. It was a long story, but I remember flipping through all of those, and one of them really caught my eye. I'm like, what is this look for the character? It's so weird. And it was the box art for Mega Man Legends. And I think even like just the anime eyes, I think, on Mega Man Volnut's face, I was like, oh, there's something so different about that. It really stuck with me. But I think that might be like the first thing. I don't know, Kyle, I assume you're watching Ghibli movies at age 5 or some nonsense.
No, this is a good question, but I mean, it might have been Dragon Ball, like its first run on Fox. I caught a single episode, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And the thing that really caught my attention, I was like, this story does not seem like it's wrapping up.
Oh,
at the end
right.
of this 30 minutes.
Right.
Surely it does not pick up where it leaves off next week. And that was like the only one I saw. And then years, and that always stuck in my head. I was like, oh, that's that interesting show that actually had a continuous story that I saw that one episode.
The one thing I want in all of my entertainment.
It totally, yeah. And then Dragon Ball Z appeared many years later, and I was like, oh my God, this is a continuation of that thing, that one episode. He grew up? That's how long the story's been going? He's an adult now? It was a revelation for me. It was huge.
That's amazing. Jared Peters writes in and says, hello, MinnMax. As a kid, did you ever create extra challenges for yourself in games that you had beaten but didn't want to stop playing? For example, in Banjo-Tooie, I used to try to get from one end of a level to another without alerting any enemies. Yep, stealth game. That's my favorite, Banjo-Tooie. I don't know, does somebody else think of one?
I do this now in Pokemon games. I try to beat every Pokemon game with only one type. Which I think we talked about on the deepest dive. I try to have like an all bird team, and it's very difficult because it's not like a good.
All birds.
Yeah, it's not a good type. So like flying types are weak to a lot of very common stuff that pops up.
Yeah. But, oh my God, you're getting one shot at all the time, I'd imagine.
Yeah. I mean, there's some that aren't flying type, right? Like you've got like Psyduck and Golduck and that sort of thing. Like where it's just a water type, but it's a bird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So I like to make challenges for myself like that when a game is otherwise pretty easy.
Yeah, that's good.
It's funny what the question says, like, after you beat a game, because for me, all the memories are like as a kid, beating a game was almost a like foreign concept. Like I kind of didn't even conceptualize that it would like have an ending. And so it was like, well, I'm just, I really like that first star in Super Mario 64. So like, I'm just going to keep doing that. Like, that's my challenge. Or like I'm just running around fighting things in Hyrule Field. And like, that is the game. And it doesn't even really occur to me that there's like a bunch of other stuff outside that. So it was like I had these goals instead of beating the game because that seemed like such an insurmountable task.
Yeah, why would I want to do that? I stop playing the game? No, that's so lame. Dunder writes in and says, hey, cohorts and contributors, what's one of those games from your childhood that you're obligated to play because you just didn't have many other games to choose from? Mine was Back to the Future for the NES. I knew it was bad when I was playing it, and I just recently learned that Bob Gale, co-creator of Back to the Future, said the game sucked eggs, was one of the worst games ever, and told fans not to buy it because he was so ashamed of how bad it was. My God, Bob Gale.
Really
wow.
Caring about the video game adaptation. I mean, mine was Clay Fighter. I played more Clay Fighter than Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat growing up. And I think it's why I still struggle with fighting games today, is because my introduction was like, in retrospect, a crappy one. But I was like, oh no, this is cool. I'm pressing Y and they're punching.
Is that the one that has a character named Blue Suede Goo?
Yeah, the Elvis impersonator.
Okay, that's pretty good.
And it was Tiny, the bodybuilder. Booger Man was an N64 one.
Wait,
There's
really?
A clown. There's a guy made of taffy.
Huh, that seems okay. Jacob Geller, by the way, I wanted to say this, then I caught myself because I realized that's what your life is. How much of your life is people saying, you should make a video essay about this?
Yeah, like a lot. I mean, we talked about it in the intro to this, that it's more that if I haven't made an essay on something, people assume that I have not played nor heard of a game. And so it's just like, now I finally made a video about Soma, so I can stop getting the like 3 daily messages that are like, you should play Soma.
By the way, I kind of want to do the deepest dive on Soma at some point because I've never done it.
It's the best sci-fi story of the 21st century.
Yeah, but other than that, okay, sorry. Dunder's question. Yeah, the childhood games. I need to think of a Kelsey, please. I'm counting on you, but I'm not going to make eye contact with you just in case you don't know it as the historian. Boulder Dash. Does anybody know Boulder Dash?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Kelsey. Thank you. But like back on my Apple II is one of those games that I projected so much onto that game because it's like the only game that's like, oh, it kind of feels like an adventure. I'm like roaming around, but really you're just kind of like digging around underground. And I cannot even tell you the goal. You'd go below a boulder and it would like drop down. Other than that, I don't know. It was just like a cool play space to try and wrap my brain around as a kid. And I recently was looking it up and it has this weird history where I think it's a German developer and the original developer still, I think, has the rights, or they're still releasing new Boulder Dash games. Like they released one on Steam just not that long ago, like a big anniversary edition. And it like, I think it has like 0 reviews on Steam. Just nobody cared. And it broke my heart. And I tried to reach out to the developer to talk about the long history of Boulder Dash, but never heard back.
I think that's right. I feel like no one has the. They just still have the rights to that?
Yeah, BBG Entertainment GmbH.
Oh, that's cool.
Is the publisher for this weirdo thing. And yeah, it released in 2021 and has 5 user reviews for Boulder Dash Deluxe. At some point,
if Leo was on the podcast, I feel like he would be able to back me up more than, I don't know if any of y'all will, but for me, it was just like terrible Flash games.
Yeah.
Which were,
Yes.
like, there were kind of infinite games, but like most of them were bad, and I didn't know what a bad game was. And so, like,
Right.
it would just be like, well, this game says that it's Mario, so I guess I'll play it. And then it was like someone trying to like terribly recreate Mario and Flash or whatever. And I was like,
Right.
well, everyone says Mario's good, so like I guess I should just play this game.
Totally. And even
I mean, that's where where the free games come from, right? It's like you just, when you're done with the games, the 4 games you're allowed to have at home or whatever, it's like, guess I'll go on Newgrounds
and play the most explicit, inappropriate thing you could possibly imagine. It was like,
Yeah.
I'm only allowed to have an e-game at home, but then I'm going to go online and play just like a monster.
Yeah, I think even like before the Flash era, that was such a huge part of the early internet for me, which was like 4th grade is my like moment of like, okay, the internet is here. Try and wrap your mind around it. And it was just so much about going to like freegames.com and just downloading these bizarre things. And there were some gems in there like Lero. I don't know if you know Lero, but that was a big one for me. Or like Kung Fu Kim. It's like just these weird games that would also just destroy your computer with malware. And oh my God, it was a complete disaster. But that was the kind of the fun Wild West.
It was interesting to me, like, playing real games from, you know, like the early 2000s or whatever, and realizing that I had played Flash games that were clearly kind of parodies or like had taken inspiration from them. But it was like seeing a movie parody on The Simpsons first and then seeing the movie and being like, oh, that's where that's from. Like this game was like trying to be eco, but like in 2D with no graphics.
That's amazing. Yeah, honestly, it was like, I feel like I was an adult before I realized that, wait, there's this movie called Cape Fear and it just rips off the entire Sideshow Bob storyline. Like, what is this thing? I don't know, Kelsey, does one jump out for you? Those old bad childhood games, just Flash stuff?
Yeah, lots of Flash stuff. I was pretty selective with what I got as a kid because, you know, you just don't get that many. Like, I rented a ton of bad games, but, you know, when it was time to, like, okay, you get a video game for your birthday or, you know, for Christmas or whatever, it's like, okay, I got to make sure this one counts. Like, this has got to be a good game. Someone at my school's played it. They said it's good. Okay, all right. I will. Like I was careful about that.
Right. Hamtaro it is. Load me up. Give me every one of these weird Alpha Free games. Alpha Dream games. And Attack Corgi writes in and says, hello, MinnMax crew. Let's play a Would You Rather rating game. You will choose which you'd prefer to play. Okay. Well, he over-explains it, but let me get to it. I think it's an interesting hypothetical. So let's say you can... Yeah, maybe you can only play one or the other. So would you rather play the Saints Row reboot if it got a 10 out of 10, or Breath of the Wild 2 if it scored a 5 out of 10?
Interesting.
This is very good.
What did the original Saints Row's score? Because I feel like we're scaling it to 10 out of 10.
8s.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to play Zelda just to.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, it's like. Think about a 5 out of 10 Zelda has like never existed. Like that on its own would be kind of fascinating.
Yeah, I mean,
plus, I got to see how it fits in with the rest of the series. Like it's like the sort of historical relevance of playing even a bad Zelda is more important to me than playing a good Saints Row.
But
I think the historical relevance of playing a bad Zelda period is like just by virtue of being a bad Zelda, like that is a historical event.
You're right.
This is a group of people that haven't played Triforce Heroes, is what I'm hearing.
I have played Triforce Heroes, and I had 2 friends to play it with, so it was.
By the way, a fine game. It's not actively bad, just fine.
I also don't consider it a real Zelda game. It's clearly spin-off to me, but maybe that's not true.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me projecting like it's mediocre, therefore it doesn't count.
Right, but it's so confusing.
Counts as much as Four Swords, I guess.
Yeah. Did you ever finish Triforce Heroes, Kyle?
Yeah, I reviewed it.
Oh God, I forgot about that. I remember playing it with you on a plane, I think, and having like an hour play session, and I'm ready to defend that game for the rest of my life. But like, I don't know. It was a funny time with Kyle and Ben Reeves and I on a plane. And we laughed.
Communication system,
Yeah, I don't know what else you need. I remember something about like a cheerleading emote that Ben Reeves just kept spamming everywhere as he kept messing up every puzzle. It's like, all right, this is making me laugh enough. This game's great.
The concept of a 10 out of 10 Saints Row remake is like breaking my brain. I can't even imagine how that would be possible.
That's the thing. That's why I think I might want to go Saints Row, because I feel like it would have to dig so hard out of the hole that we'd all imagine of like, well, that's going to be a solid 8 out of 10.
10 out of 10 open world game, I guess, other than Elden Ring. But it's like, this would be like Red Dead Redemption 2, but somehow in the Saints Row universe.
Somehow better. Hey, anything's possible. Okay, here's one that's a little less spicy. Let's say Kyle, 10 out of 10 Gotham Knights, or a 7.5 out of 10 for Bayonetta 3.
Oh, Gotham.
Yeah.
Jacob, sorry, I'm not a big Bayonetta guy.
Yeah,
Bayonetta.
Bayonetta. Mm-hmm. Are you a big Bayonetta fan?
I just really like those games, and I like platinum action.
That's it.
I mean, I am.
We're talking Babylon's Fall
guy as well. But I'm really skeptical of Arkham Knights, and so if it was great, like I would be really excited to play that. But like, yeah, there's no universe where I like can't play Bayonetta 3.
Right.
even if it sucked, I'm there day one.
Sometimes, I wake up early in the morning and just go and look at myself in the mirror, and I really wonder if something's wrong with me. I finished Bayonetta 2, and I have zero fond feelings about that experience. And every time anybody talks about Bayonetta 2, it's like the second coming of Christ. And it's like, I guess it's just super not my genre, but I feel like I maybe need to go back and reevaluate that thing.
The first coming of Christ was Bayonetta 1.
That's right.
For the record.
That's right. Yep. BC. Okay. Kelsey, a 10 out of 10 Sonic Frontiers or a 5 out of 10 Starfield?
That one.
I didn't even need to hear the other one.
How is that a question? 10 out of 10.
Wait, what's the 5 out of 10?
5 out of 10 Starfield.
I wouldn't play. I don't think I'd even play it like 7 out of 10.
Oh, damn.
A 10 out of 10 Sonic game? Are you kidding me?
You're right.
You could even back that.
So crazy. Like, I would be.
You could back that up and just not even have the score. Just say a good contemporary Sonic game.
Yes.
Right. 3D.
I would have taken that at like 9, like an 8 or 9 out of 10.
All right.
I'd be like, oh my god, here we go.
Can you imagine? Yeah, just, the internet would melt down if it was just like IGN, GameSpot, 10 out of 10 for Sonic Frontiers. Just everybody was unanimous. This is it, everybody.
Manifesting this into existence because I want this reality so bad.
All right, Jacob Keller, would you rather play a 3 out of 10 Avatar Spirits of Pandora or a 1 out of 10 Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed?
Now, is this just telling the future? I guess the Ghostbusters game is already out, right?
No, it's not already out. I think that looks solid. Ilphonics game. I'm excited.
The Avatar game.
Okay.
I mean, I almost actively dislike Ghostbusters as a property. And so like, even if it was like a 6 out of 10 Ghostbusters versus a 3 out of 10 Avatar, I think I would still rather play the Avatar.
Okay. All right.
What? even gets a 1 out of 10? I feel like you have to not even function as a video game to be a 1 out of 10.
Well, I remember at Game Informer, it was on the Connect, Hulk Hogan's main event. I think Dan Reichert gave that a 1 out of 10 just for some framework. And it was literally like him flailing in front of the Connect, and it's just Hulk going, press the start button, brother, or whatever the hell's going on. I guess it doesn't apply.
Well, he had the great thing I'll always love about that, because Game Informer has bullets, right? Graphics, sound, blah, blah. And for entertainment, he just wrote NA, which I just so good. Dan Reichert's funny, it turns out.
Yeah, you hate to admit it. Reed Harry writes in and says, I decided a month ago to pick up Inscription because it sounded like it checked all the boxes for me. Indie, roguelike, experimental, card game, critically lauded. Played it for about 30 minutes and bounced off super hard. I still haven't returned to it. I feel almost embarrassed for not instantly loving it. Has this ever happened to y'all? You find a game that seems right up your alley, but you just don't click with it?
To a lesser degree, Tunic for me recently.
Yeah.
Tunic felt like a game I should have been head over heels for, and I was just like, yeah, it's cool. It's kind of like my big take is like 8 out of 10.
Do you think that's one that you could go back to at the end of the year and appreciate in a whole new way? I just feel like I need to reset your brain and get you to try that again, Kyle, because it does not compute.
Maybe. I mean, because my big problem with it was I was constantly lost, right? So like maybe replaying it and having a good idea of where to go, and then being excited about getting to do all the post game stuff, because apparently the post game stuff is where it gets really fuzzy and puzzly and like really opaque and difficult, and like I've seen a lot of people being like, I could not do it without a walkthrough, and that's kind of interesting to me. Yeah, maybe I'll revisit it again and go check out that stuff. But yeah, I mean, and not a bad game. Like definitely not saying it's a bad game, but like it seemed like one that I should have been way more in love with than I was.
Right. Yeah, Kingdom Hearts is up there for me. For like, hey, you love Disney, you love Final Fantasy. Yeah, but just not that. But at some point, I'll try going back or something. I don't know.
I've bounced off of every Ys game that I've ever tried, which is weird because I would not classify any of those experiences as like negative at all. I just have never gotten more than like 8 hours into one. And even then, I think that only happened once. And it's like action JRPG that is critically acclaimed. And I just bounce off it every time. I don't know.
That's bizarre. And you've gone back to the bat every time. Ys 1, Ys 2, Ys 3, just going through the entire series trying to make it work.
No, I mean, I think I've probably tried like 4 or 5 of them total, maybe. But
that's impressive.
I have. It's not so much bounced off as just like it's never held my interest, but the Deltarune couple chapters that are out. I mean, like my dog is named Toriel after the character from Undertale. Like it was like I was a big Undertale fan, and maybe it's just that like that game hits better when you're a kind of 21-year-old and not like I don't know. I mean, it's like I don't feel like I'm in that different of a place, but like for some reason the kind of like Undertale style writing does not super connect with me the way that it used to.
Right. Ricky Winterborn writes in, I love the super secret GDC Talk podcast. Thank you. Especially the Star Wars hotel bit. Are y'all excited by the idea of these proto-Westworld type experiences? If you're not familiar, the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser is what it's called, where you spend, I think it's like $7,000 or something, and you go live in a Star Wars world for a couple nights, and it's like a all-encompassing experience. There's a storyline running throughout it. Leo and I kind of break it down based on that GDC Talk and that podcast. But yeah, are y'all interested in these proto-Westworld type experiences? It sounds like it's awesome so far, but I assume everyone going at this point are Star Wars mega fans and influencers. I'm very curious how it holds up once more normies get in there and start straining the facade. That is exactly what I want to know. I want to know how far I can push it, and can you get an actor to crack under any situation? Like, I bet they're real pros, but that's what I would be interested in.
Go ahead, Jake.
Go ahead, Kyle. Oh. Well, there have been early reports of it's like I've seen people tweeting about going to that Star Wars experience thing. It seems like that chart is way more aggressive in its gameplay design than what the experience actually feels like.
Oh, really?
Like it's they have reported like it seems like we're kind of just doing things, and then whether we did it or not, something else happens.
So it's just not like this fully immersive thing.
That's not related to the question, but I have been thinking about that chart a lot because it's like, boy, they have grand designs. I don't know.
Yeah, we talked about it on the podcast, but I think that one of the things that bummed me out about it is like, it sounds so cool and like having these actors and, you know, just the design of it. I think it's so awesome to have like, hey, we have actors, but we need to somehow schedule time for them to go sleep and for them to go eat because they're with you for several days. It's like a performance that lasts for 2.5 days. It's such a fascinating concept. And so then when the actor isn't there, then they talk to you through an app. And so all your decisions are through the app, which is the thing that kind of bums me out. Like, I think it'd be fun to be able to like go up and like whisper to the, you know, the rebellion and be like, I'm with you guys. And like, that does not matter at all for the Star Wars Hotel thing. It's all just selecting yes or no on
like
the app.
people said like they got a message on the app while the actor was like standing next to them.
Oh,
like,
that
from
sucks.
that person.
That sucks. Was their hand in their pocket at least, Departed style, trying to text them secret stuff from the First Order? But I'm into it. I love immersive theater. I think this is a cool immersive version of it.
The idea of like having to interact with actors, like just or people being in character, it just seems exhausting to me. Like, I don't,
yeah, because it's like
that.
you also have to be performing for 2.5 days. It's like if someone asked me, do you want to be in a Star Wars themed improv scene for 3 days? I would say no.
What, are you uptight?
I think it's cool that, like, I don't know, there's a huge industry for absolute nerds now. Like,
yes,
sure, yeah.
yes.
That you can pay $7,000 to LARP, and there's an industry for that, and people aren't like supremely embarrassed by that. I think is like just a win for culture in general. It's like not that Star Wars is culture, but more just like, hey,
no,
like
it's
okay to just like dumb nerdy things, and you know, want to have fun in ways that aren't like. You don't have to be like, all I do is read books and
totally.
watch sports or whatever. Like, you can have nerd hobbies, and there's like a rich person market for nerd hobbies even, you know?
Yeah, and hopefully it opens up some...
Yeah, that's good for society. Well, rich people can give Disney $7,000.
No, but maybe there's something for like, I like that idea of maybe it would inspire people to kind of make their own, or just like, yeah, maybe I should get into like Star Wars LARPing with my friends for free.
Yes, that's what I'm getting at. It's
Yeah.
like, it's not as embarrassing to like nerdy things and to explore nerdy things. And I mean, at this point, I don't even consider Star Wars to be nerdy. It's like the most mainstream thing in the world. But like,
that's interesting.
Baby steps, right? Like that's a good place to start. It's like, if you don't think sci-fi is nerdy anymore, then maybe we can start. Everyone can start being comfortable being themselves and liking what they want to like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have discomfort specifically related to the IP. Like, I would love to spend $50 to go to like a community theater that is doing something like this that's not Star Wars. Like, that's the kind of thing that I would like to do for like an evening.
Right.
And part of it is just the kind of like corporate machinery of it that turns me off, that it just feels kind of insane to spend that much money and this much production on like pretending to be a wizard. You know, it's like, I think LARPing is cool. I think, you know, it's just kind of the cost and the scale of it that kind of weirds me out.
Have you ever been to an immersive theater show?
No, and I would really like to.
Oh my God, that seems exactly up your alley. I mean, there's even been small ones around Minneapolis. I remember one years ago. Just like, just little moments really stand out. And it's all about just when you feel special in a performance, where you go into this big warehouse and you're wandering around and there's actors and you can kind of piece the story together. And I remember at some point, like this actor just like grabbed my hand and then brought me to like a weird secret back area. And like, this is going to sound insane, shoved me in like a cardboard box. And it was like this cardboard box, like little house that she had built. And then we both just sat in this cardboard box, and she like closed the cardboard door, and then she lit a candle, and like just being cramped in a cardboard box with this actor, and she's like whispering her backstory to me. It's like, well, okay, theater is cool. This is incredible. I love it. Let's see. Jose Arroyo writes in and says, hello, M&Ms, the loop continuous. You betcha. They say, hey, can we get a Returnal Twitch stream with Kyle where he can partner with the community to break the cycle? It is my dream to shoot and dash as Kyle's number 2.
Maybe.
Hey, you know, I hate to do this to you, Jose. We do have a tier on Patreon where you can play with any cohort for an hour, whatever game you want. So
that is
it's
true.
possible. William Hiddle writes in and says, I'm super excited for Chrono Cross this week. Hell yeah. I even found myself drawing a doodle of the map in my downtime at work. I was surprised at how many details I actually remember. What video game map do you think you could best draw from memory right now? It's a great question.
Absolutely Dark Souls. I could draw, like, if I, like, close my eyes, I could, like, walk to every place in the Dark Souls map, just, like, in my head.
That's impressive. Yeah, From Software's got to be up there. I don't know.
I mean, probably Ocarina for me.
Yeah.
I've played that enough. I could probably draw that.
I think I could do the Ravine map from Perfect Dark, but that's less interesting.
Like Pokemon or something. It's like I don't have a memory for drawing a map, so it needs to be something kind of small and like. I mean, there's a lot of places on a Pokemon map, I guess, but it's a small map.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, the world map is just, I don't know, it's just a bunch of lines. It's like not a very intricately laid out thing, you know?
It's a route with some places going up and down. Yeah,
you get the idea. David Dubbs writes in and says, I have a question for the new contributor, Jacob Geller. Everyone else, please be quiet. I'm a big fan of all your videos and was super excited to see you added as a contributor. My question is around your video topics. I watch a lot of your videos before I go to sleep, and this always results in some pretty wild dreams. Your latest video on severed heads resulted in some strange nightmare where all my family had their heads and bodies swapped with different people. Congratulations, Jacob. You did that to him. Do you find your darker video topics affecting you in any strange ways?
Yeah, I gave this question a thumbs up because I want to say no. Like, I'm kind of a normal man. Like, there's this thing where you only see one part of a, creator's like oeuvre or whatever, where you're like, that's what they must be like because that's the public facing side of them that I see. But it's like, no, it's totally possible to kind of be into this stuff without having it consume you. So, I mean, I'm sure I've had, honestly, the most that I've been affected was the month that I wrote about not understanding Hotline Miami 2's plot. I was like thinking about Hotline Miami 2 before I went to sleep every night, and I felt like that was kind of consuming my brain. But for the most part, like, no, these dark topics are just kind of like, that's the 9 to 5, and then I can go to be fine.
Yeah, I feel like I always hear kind of conflicted versions of this from developers about how much the tone of a game impacts your day-to-day work on that game. The classic thing with Naughty Dog is like, oh, must have been so great to go back to work on the world of Uncharted after finishing The Last of Us and have like this breath of fresh air and positivity and kind of a pulp adventure compared to the dark, somber tones. And it's like, well, I'd imagine just your day-to-day work is not that much different. It's just like interacting with coworkers and getting stressed out about code and, basic stuff like that. Being mad at the engine, I don't know how much of that is the tone is really seeping through there. It's not like you're just watching the cutscenes all day for your job.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Ben, that like the quickest way to take the magic out of anything is just like editing a video about it.
Yeah.
Because it's like you just have to go over such minute details that like the idea of the larger whole just disappears. It's like it does not have the same effect on you making it as it does on the people watching it generally.
Yeah. And it always works in a weird way too. Like if you're really focusing on an edit, sometimes it feels like you're kind of watching that video in super slow motion because you're just going through piece by piece by piece. And sometimes you just feel so much when you're piecing it together if you really care about it, it really feels like, oh, this is so emotional, this section here. And you go back and watch it in real time. It's like, no one can feel that. But it turns out when you're in there assembling it slowly, frame by frame, it just feels completely different at times. So it's all over the place. Let's see. Oh, no one liked this question, but it's worth addressing, hopefully. Oh boy. Rocky 10 test. Rock 3 T5 YN T5T, of course. They say, hey, the secret of Monkey Island really wrinkled my brain as a kid. Considering a new game in the series is on the horizon, did you play any of the Monkey Island games? And if so, what do you absolutely love about them? For me, I love the verbal jousting. Yeah, I mean, it's wild news earlier this week that they're making Ron Gilbert, the original creator, is making a new Monkey Island game called Return to Monkey Island. And the art director is like the art director from Tearaway. And somehow Devolver's involved. It's interesting that it's like, okay, Devolver and Lucas and Ron Gilbert are all collaborating on a new Monkey Island game, which... Kelsey, I know that Frank Cifaldi is very into this, and it's an important series for the Video Game History Foundation. Do you have any sense of like how often Ron Gilbert's talked about not wanting to make a new one, or has he always wanted to make a new one? Do you have any sense of that?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke to him for, you can actually watch it on the Video Game History Foundation's YouTube channel, but we did an event with him digging through the source code of the original couple of Monkey Islands and kind of talking through his process and some of his ideas for the series and everything. And I'm not going to say, so that was 2 years ago, and he did say he's been working on this for 2 years. I'm not going to say that, it's because of us or anything, but you could draw that conclusion that we got him excited about it again. I don't think that's actually true, but I think that, I mean, he's always had ideas for the series is my understanding, this entire time. Not that he's been sitting there just going, if only I could make another Monkey Island the whole time, but he's kept this has taken up space in his brain, I think, basically since then, which is pretty cool. For sure. Yeah. I think it's probably just, new push for games at Disney was a couple of years ago. John Drake leaving Sony to go over there. And then it's okay, Lucas, Disney, what's a cool game we could do? And it's well, bringing back Monkey Island's pretty high up there. And if Ron Gilbert says yes, why not? I saw, it's funny, people were sharing this tweet from Ron Gilbert in 2013, where he said, if I ever get to make another Monkey Island, I'm going to announce it on April 1st. It's it turns out he was just a couple days off, but very impressive. Maybe he was pushing for it. I've dabbled a little bit. I love Day of the Tentacle and Grim Fandango and some of those old LucasArts games, but Monkey Island, the only game I finished is probably sacrilegious, but it's Escape for Monkey Island, and I played through that on PlayStation 2 and really enjoyed that. But I haven't finished those original games ever. It might be kind of fun to stream some of those at some point. I like them, in theory. Let's see. Chris Calkins. Oh, boy. This is a can of worms. So this is a confusing one. So if you recall, well, I'll get to it. I'll stop preambling it. Chris Calkins writes in and says, I know Sarah Pazorski asked, but perhaps you're all willing to hear out my gaming sin. Okay, we got a lot of people writing in with their gaming sins, which we also covered. We created a new show, Plus Show, and people voted for it this week, where it's Janet and Sarah and I just fielding people's gaming sins, and it's a weird time. So you can check that out on YouTube. Thank you for watching us live, Kelsey. Oh yeah, it was funny. Oh good. So here we go. Chris writes in with his gaming sin. Back when World of Warcraft released, I was in 6th grade. My dad showed it to me and I was completely mesmerized. I played on his account and showed it off to my sister, and she was taken in more so by the social aspect of the MMO. She made friends that helped her through the game and managed to level to the max of 60, which I never got in Vanilla WoW. Eventually she stopped playing and I got my own account and had my characters transferred over from my dad's account, including my sister's character. Since it had been years since she played, I didn't see the harm in selling all of her stuff, mailing all of her gold to myself, and deleting her character. Until one day she got a laptop, installed WoW on it, and asked me whatever happened to her character. Of course she was upset, and I felt so bad to try and make up for it. I helped her through the game again with quest dungeons and giving her gold whenever. May you find it in your hearts to absolve me of this sin.
Yeah, so what is...
That's pretty bad.
Yeah, do we absolve them, or are we passing judgment?
I feel like the real sin is just not talking to the sister before doing that. Because it's not just it's not just deleting a save file, really. It's like disassembling everything that they made.
I don't understand why he had to delete it.
Right. Was there a character limit in original WoW? Probably.
I do understand. I don't condone, but I understand being they're done with this and maybe I can have their stuff. You should have asked your sister.
That's
Holy
right.
crap. I'm sure she probably would have let you have some of that stuff. But the ending with deletion is, it's like a slow death. It's ritual that you performed on this character. It's very upsetting.
Yeah, Kyle. So, we can absolve them if we want. The way we did it on New Show Plus is you have to determine fair or foul, just like most priests do, I think. And this seems a little bit foul. The only part is he said it had been years.
Well, they also went and tried to make it up to them by
Yeah, that's
you know,
solid.
expressing
Back, and
regret
that's
is
good.
important. Like
That's
they
right.
know they messed up. They
That's
seem
right.
willing to change.
That's right. That's important. Kenneth Evans writes in and says, "Judge my gaming sin. My husband of 28 years does not know how much time I actually spend gaming. He thinks I spend an hour here or there gaming, but doesn't know about the marathon sessions that happen when he's not home. Is this a sin? How much guilt should I have over hiding my gaming addiction?" It's interesting.
Okay,
That
they're
one's-
using some interesting words here, like
Yes.
addiction and hiding.
Right,
Like,
right.
Is your husband going to have like a problem with this?
Probably not.
Or
I would imagine this is a more lighthearted question.
Well, I feel
Yeah.
like kind of the question, and this is, I don't want this to sound like, does your husband know what you're doing? But like, what does he think is happening when you are home playing like marathon sessions of games? You know, like, does he have kind of a fundamentally different picture of what your life looks like?
That seems like an issue. You think you'd want to understand in a rough
Is
sense.
he just like, my wife loves to read. She reads all day, and then actually you're playing like Doom or whatever.
yeah, I
Play
think
Norco.
it's all of these. I feel like you could ask 1,000 follow-up questions, but overall, this doesn't seem so bad. Playing more games
seems-
than your husband
yeah.
realizes, that seems fine.
seems all right.
That seems all right. You're fine, Kenneth. Devin writes in and says, "Judge my sin, MinnMaxers. When I was 9, my friend rented NFL Blitz 2002 from Blockbuster. I asked if I could try it out, so he secretly let me borrow it. Somehow I lost the game, and when the rental was up, he took the fall for me. His mom ended up having to pay full price for the game and didn't let him rent anything from Blockbuster for a long time. Several months later, I found it wedged between my dresser and the wall, and I didn't tell my friend because I felt so terrible and didn't want to bring it up. So I decided to keep it. I sold it on eBay a decade later in college for some beer money. How do you judge my sin?"
Guilty.
I think the fact that he honestly lost it and he was honest with his friend at that point, this seems okay to me. This is better
I'm
than
kind of
stealing the
fascinated
game.
how you sell an outdated sports game on eBay.
Yeah, what is this beer? I mean, I'm
For
curious.
beer, it was a $3 PBR.
But it was unbelievable. Yeah, this seems fair.
I feel like your mom should have known because it was very nice of your friend to take the fall for you.
Yeah.
I feel like all the children in this were consenting to everything that was happening, and that's great and everything, but like really, you should be the one that got in trouble. So like, you should have told your mom that you lost the game, and then like, you guys take the fall for the
Or just
rental.
like give the friend the game, you know, be like, hey, your mom paid for this and you got in trouble, so like at least you can play
Yeah.
it now. Like here.
And now it's yours. You've paid for it.
Yeah. I do wonder if it kind of drove a wedge in their friendship, though. I understand that feeling of like, he felt so terrible about it, the idea of like opening that wound back up, or maybe his friend was really pissed at him that he wasn't able to rent more from Blockbuster. It's like, is it worth it for NFL Blitz 2002? You know, that's tough. That's tough, Devin Brooks. Thank you for your gaming sins. Hey, there's a new Show Plus show, and if it wins next week, you can submit your sin over there, and we'll keep judging them there. What do y'all like for a question of the week?
I like the lies we told as children
Really?
for the
Okay.
Haro story. I thought that was fun.
All right.
I
solid.
also thought Kyle's story in that was very funny.
I like that. I like the people in the industry you want to meet. I like and don't let me color these, but I like the 10 out of 10 Saints Row versus 5 out of 10 Breath of the Wild.
Oh yeah,
I like
that's
Would You
my
Rather.
favorite.
Ooh,
because
hang
now
on.
I'm just gonna be thinking about 10 out of 10 Saints Row.
Hang on. Was that a unanimous decision? Or Kelsey, how are you feeling about these?
Yeah, my answer was going to be the would you rather stuff. So.
Awesome. All right. There we go.
it.
Congratulations. An Attack Corgi IM8-bit will ship you out a fully functioning cartridge for Mega Man X, a legacy cartridge. Thanks so much. Now it's time for something that we call Get a Load of This. We call it Get a Load of This unless Kelsey hasn't been able to find one.
No, I have
Okay.
something.
Oh,
I
amazing.
can just send it to you somewhere.
Ooh, sure. Yeah, maybe Slack would actually be easiest.
Slack.
I'll start things off. Mine is not it's not the deepest cut, but hey, get a load of this. Kyle Bossman, formerly of Easy Allies, he has his own YouTube channel called Delayed Input, which I enjoy quite a bit, just for weekly video essays. A little jokier than yours, Jacob Geller. Not that it's a competition. But he had just a very basic take on the whole PlayStation Plus expansion thing that I thought framed it very well, where he was bringing it up just as a comparison to Netflix. And he's like, it's such a weird thing to lead with the total number of games on this service. That's not what matters. Like, has Netflix ever gone out there and said, we have 42,312 films? Like, no one cares. What people care about are the exclusives. And his angle in this video essay was just like, they should just make weird one-offs that are technically PlayStation branded for PlayStation Plus and make those exclusive to the higher things. Like, hey, here's a new Ape Escape game where you have to capture one ape. And he was kind of jokey about it, but I'm like, I think there is something there. It's like, hey, here's an abandoned prototype from Naughty Dog available for the highest PlayStation Plus subscriber thing. Like, I think there's some cool avenue there just for actual exclusive stuff, kind of like Nintendo's doing with Mario 35 and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, they also, I mean, because Nintendo also gives you like weird save states for like Super Metroid, and stuff.
It's
which
cool.
Is like, that kind of stuff is weird and like gets me more interested in going to look back at those games than just like, oh yeah, these games are available now. What's wrong?
Kelsey just sent me or get a load of this. I thought it was going to have like audio that I'd have to play, but Kelsey, this is just a picture. Do you want to explain it?
Yeah, I do. It's a very good Twitter account. Sorry, get a load of this.
Thank you.
There's a really stupid Twitter account called Dark Souls Toilet, and it's
no need for further explanation.
It's just really like threatening photos of toilets with various places from software games superimposed over them. So the one I sent Ben is it's a room that's entirely lit red with like some straw on the floor, and there is a toilet in the corner, and then there's like just giant birds in there. Like I don't know what kind of birds, but they're very like, you know, dinosaur looking birds, like they're kind of like 3 foot tall. They would hurt if they kick you kind of birds. And it's obviously Khaled or however you pronounce that from Elden Ring.
It's perfect.
It's a wonderful Twitter account to scroll through for 5 minutes and be like, haha, yeah, and then you're done.
That's it. Perfect. There's links below, by the way, if you want to check out any of these things. Jacob, you got one?
Get a load of this. So people love to group me in with people who make like 3-hour essays on games. You know, they're like, oh, I love watching those. And it's like, I don't do that. I think most of those 3-hour essays on games are not good, and they are like not paced well and just kind of end up being laundry lists of things. However, the one exception is actually the man who I mentioned earlier in this video, Noah Caldwell-Gervais, who made this week a 5-hour Dark Souls trilogy video called I Beat the Dark Souls Trilogy, and all I made was this lousy video essay that is an unbelievable piece of writing of just going through all of the games. And Ben, I really think you should watch at least the beginning of this, because a lot of his thesis is, my whole life I have been not a particularly like reflexy skilled gamer, and everyone just always told me like, oh well, this guy can never play Dark Souls, like you have to be too good, and like on not only how that undersells the series, but like how much he found that to not be the case, and how like flexible and willing to work with him the Dark Souls games were. It's just a brilliant piece of writing. He's the only guy who I trust to talk about games for like 5 hours at a time.
Cool.
It's a very, very good video.
Cool. Links below. Hey, here's one from the community. Sorry to be a downer, but I think it's an interesting little tidbit here. From the community, get a load of this. I'm sorry I didn't grab their name. Whoever submitted it, forgive me, please. Anyways, they posted the story from The Verge about how the Prince of Saudi Arabia now owns SNK, creators of Fatal Fury, Metal Slug. For the description here, they say that the electronic gaming development company, which is owned by Mohammed bin Salman's foundation, holds now 96.18% of SNK's shares. Which is just a wild development to think that like, oh, even just Fatal Fury being in Smash, the idea of like Nintendo having to license things like connecting technically to the royal family of Saudi Arabia and all of their horrific crimes in the past. It is just a wild state for the game industry these days that they're pushing hard into the game space. So, hey, not to bum everybody out, but Kyle, you got one?
Yeah, hey, get a load of this. Just going to read some YouTube comments that I came across. On the Elden Ring multiple messages things, I don't mind if there are multiple that say the same thing, as long as it's right and useful, as long as I get the info I need, I don't mind. That's from yet another account. Liz Phillips here. Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle's mic isn't working. It's really unfortunate that he's been brought into this situation.
It's about the same thing than OneNote. Keep doing it, please.
Wow.
Smiley face, thumbs up.
Right.
Chris Calkins says, to defend Kyle, I think
you're
it's
taking
a nice
Calkins'
reassurance when you
comments.
come across multiple messages saying the same thing in certain cases, whether it's a heads up about an item somewhere, an ambush, or a secret passage.
Look, you get enough
and then
YouTube
finally,
comments,
Johnny
some of them are
Breyer
gonna
says,
be-
to defend Kyle, I think it's a nice reassurance when you come across multiple messages that say the same thing in certain cases, whether it's a heads up or, similar to what the last person said.
Right.
So,
Look, let's just
wanted to share some of those. I thought they were kind of interesting. I thought it was a good fit for Get a Load of This.
That's smart.
Just about the topic of, doubling up on messages you might find in Elden Ring to help other players.
Let's
This
do
is
this.
a lot of From Software in this. Get a load of this.
There really is.
They released a new game, turns out.
Next week for the podcast, let's just have the same people on and go over the exact same topics. And I bet we'll get some YouTube comments that say, I like this. And then we'll all feel validated. Just keep doing it again and again. No, that's fine, Kyle. You teach their own, except for the way you do it. All right. That's it, everybody. Thank you so much. We have some things coming up at MinnMax here. We're going to be streaming with cohorts and contributors Thursday. So if you're watching or listening to this early, give us a follow on Twitch. Get ready for that. Otherwise, the archive will be up on YouTube. Also, check out Steam Secret Stash with Sarah Pozorski and Ana Diaz, the grand return of Ana. So those two playing a bunch of wild games, and that's up on YouTube now if you're listening to this. Also, our Patreon exclusive podcast called Party Chat, which you unlock at the $5 tier, and it goes right in your favorite podcast app. It's the easiest way of, basically doubling all of your MinnMax podcast content every week. Anyways, but Party Chat this week, we talked about the death of E3. Joe Juba was on that one. We talk about Judd Apatow's The Bubble. Kyle, what was that show that you and Jeffem talked about? Old Enough on Netflix?
Old Enough. Yeah, very good show.
I started watching that. It's fantastic.
It's really good.
It's just it's a Japanese show from like 2008 where it's just like 10-minute episodes of children wandering around Japan.
Very young Japanese children.
Yeah, if you want to see a 3-year-old Japanese cute child trying to do complex tasks on their own and just failing miserably, it's really wonderful. Very hard.
Or succeeding. The success is just as exciting.
They always get it done. It's amazing. Hey, thank you so much for being here, Jacob, Kelsey. Appreciate it. Kelsey, do you got anything going on you want to point people towards?
Not off the top of my head. I'm sure there is, but put me on the spot there.
You have a podcast that's very good.
Thank you. Well, I just wanted to hear you say it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
It's-
And it's
the Video Game History Hour.
there we go.
It is a podcast I do every week with Frank Spaldi, the founder of the Video Game History Foundation, and it's a good time if you want to learn some video game history.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I know you weren't on the full episode, but the episode with the Nintendo Power reunion was interesting. And it was one of those things of like, was I hearing this right? Where there was a question from the community, because they named so many things, like this group of people that were on the show, it was them talking about, the woman who named Link to the Past was on there and talking about naming enemies Link to the Past and stuff was really cool.
Gail Tilden is so much more than the woman who named Link.
I'm sorry, but just like for an interesting little tidbit. But then the part where they asked about the origins of Bowser's name and why it was changed from Koopa to Bowser. And like, at least the people that were on, they're like, yeah, we were there during the time. We don't know how or why that happened. Is there really no record of why Bowser's name is Bowser?
Yeah, you're talking about a version of Nintendo of America that was like 10 employees for a while, and it's just like if you're having a conversation like around the one table that exists as like the break room, like this is a really tiny company for a while, and these are just people who were doing a job. There wasn't like a robust video game industry at the time. The game crash was only like it was kind of still there, still feeling the effects of that. And it's like, to a lot of these people, it wasn't until much later in their lives that they realized they were like launching something huge. And so they weren't even thinking to pay attention to, random conversations like that. These didn't feel like monumentous decisions. I'm
right.
sure when they were having them, it was just like, I don't know, we got to do something about this. Any ideas? Okay, cool. We'll go with that.
That's so wild to think that, Bowser, we don't know where it came from. Nobody remembers. Like if somebody would have written something down, maybe, but it's wild. But yeah, Video Game History Hour podcast. Check it out. Also, everybody, the deepest dive on Chrono Cross is happening. We talked about it a little bit last week, but this is going to be a fun time. So it's myself, Joe Juba, Kyle Hilliard, and then Rebecca Valentine from IGN, who's a big Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross fan. So this is your chance. Look, here's the thing. Chrono Cross, if you love it, I feel like you really love it. If you've never played it, there's a chance you will love it. But there aren't many of us. So please, this is your moment. This is you, everybody. This is all we got. We need to savor Chrono Cross and the big remaster for all it's worth. So you can join our big community game club discussion by playing along with us, submitting comments over on Patreon. You support us at the $2 tier. Or if you just want to listen to what will genuinely be the best, most thorough discussion about Chrono Cross on the internet, you can unlock the podcast version of that by supporting us on Patreon. Otherwise, any help sharing it on YouTube would be appreciated because it'll be a fun time. Kyle, how are you feeling about Chrono Cross coming up here?
I'm a little nervous. It's a big RPG. Hopefully I can make my way through it. The new version has where you can turn off, battles and all that kind of stuff if I get frustrated with it. So that'll be good.
So I'm sensing fear in your voice for diving into Chrono Cross for the first time? No, it's going to be it's
to
like
play like an old game, an old outdated game that probably doesn't. Who knows how it might be terrible.
No. Okay, well, maybe you'll be the voice of reason for everybody else just gushing about their childhoods on this thing, but I can't wait to unpack Chrono Cross for a very long time. So look forward to that. Again, the stopping point for the first discussion is after you finish Viper Manor. So stop there, and then we'll be collecting your comments over on Patreon. Jacob Keller, I'm sorry, did you have a plug, dude?
Sure. If you're over 18 years of age, because YouTube has age restricted the video, you can watch a new video that I just put out called Head Transplants and the Non-Existence of the Soul, which I do think is very good and was doing very well until YouTube decided it should not be seen.
Hey, it's a good sign. It's the hardcore, edgiest video you made, man. It makes it cooler. It's not some corporate swill for everybody.
That's the real heads will find that one.
That's right. Thank you to everybody at our Game Champion tier. If you support us at the $50 tier on Patreon, you can choose any game under the sun to become the official champion of. We tweet about it. You're in every MinnMax podcast and video description. Thank you to Matt, who's officially the game champion for the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind. Excellent choice, Matt. Excellent. And there will be a reason coming up soon where you'll want to choose something cool. Pepperoni Forever has chosen Silent Hill 2. Officially the game champion. Don't even think about it. I know that Void Burger over at Giant Bomb, she likes to claim she's the champion of Silent Hill 2, but nay, it is Pepperoni Forever, officially the game champion for Silent Hill 2. So again, claim any game under the sun, and there'll be a big competition coming up. That should be interesting. All right, that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, listening, and sharing the MinnMax Show podcast. We'll see you next week. Be good, have fun, let's go.